Mud, sweat, and instant coffee. More sweat, mosquitoes, and the intense combined smell of gunpowder and human shit. Every time I'm asked about my time in Vietnam, these are my go-to answers. Sometimes, in special cases, I'll go into a little more detail about what kind of sea rations we got, or that one time we burned down the lieutenant's tent by accident. Rarely, if ever, will I talk about combat. I was a tunnel rat. For 3 years, I crawled through pitch-black tunnels, planting explosives and praying that no one saw me before I saw them. Whenever I emerged to the surface, I would detonate my charges and collapse what tunnels I could. I have no idea how many lives I've taken, and I imagine I never will until I meet Saint Peter himself. I won't lie to you and say I'm haunted by the lives I took because, truthfully, I'm not. Every time I took a life, I was able to justify it as me or them, or sometimes my brothers or them. I sleep peacefully. There is only one life I've ever taken that still lives inside my heart. In the same way my missing foot still itches, I occasionally look behind me as if he's still there, watching me. I'm old now, and while I'm still able, I wanted to tell this story. His story, or at least how it ended. The year was 1970, and I was 21 years old. Platoon Sergeant B. Reyes was tearing some poor soul whose name I forget a new asshole. Something about the ration supply or lack thereof. I was passing out the mail for the day, heckling young boys and weathered men alike lined up to find out whether home thought of them as much as they dreamed of it. Some were happily surprised. Others were left feeling alone amidst brothers. "Nothing, really?" asked a man who we all knew as Moose. "You waiting on a nudie?" I pushed past him to hand a letter to someone else, but felt his hand on my shoulder. "No man, check again. Must have been 3 weeks since she wrote." "I'm sorry, Moose, but Emily..." My sentence was cut with a sharp echoing twang. The camp stood still as we all strained our ears. What air was once full with thousands of whirring bugs now sat saturated in silence. Another twang echoed, and a man fell dead across the yard. Every sound I had ever heard, and many more I couldn't imagine, clanged within my ears as hell rose up around us. 24 or more Viet Cong soldiers surrounded our encampment. My body hit the dirt before I could process what was happening. Loose rocks dug into my stomach as I crawled towards my tent, desperate for my gun. I couldn't see around me, but I could tell from the sounds of the shouting and the direction of the gunfire which soldiers were armed and ready and which were not. A hard boot kicked into my ribcage, stealing my breath and turning me onto my side as the rest of the leg came with it, landing beside me. Some scrawny kid, face full of acne and eyes full of panic, had tripped over me, the same soldier whom Sergeant Reyes reprimanded. The Vietnamese soldier who was chasing him leapt over my body and landed knees first. No sooner had the air been knocked out of the kid's lungs that they filled with blood. A wet, meek gasp was all he offered in defense. Sucking in hot air, I hefted myself onto a knee and wound back my fist. Just as the man turned to me, his knife still in the boy's chest, I landed a right hook square on his jaw. Adrenaline might have kept him awake, but it did not keep the man from letting go of the knife and rolling off the body. I reached out and grabbed the handle, trying desperately to ignore the wet, shredding feeling of cutting meat as I pulled it out. Kicking off the dirt, I managed to lunge at him, locking limbs like chain links tumbling across the yard. The harsh snap of his teeth clashed barely an inch from my ear as he attempted to latch onto my neck. I threw my chin over his shoulder and embraced him, throwing my arms under him and taking away any way for him to defend himself from the knife I still held. Too panicked to think about conserving energy, I stabbed as fast, as hard, and as many times as I could, until his hands stopped reaching behind his head, trying to gouge out my eyes. His body lay limply on mine, falling forward and slipping to the ground beside me. "Get the hell up," said a booming voice behind me, rising above the cacophony. A hand made of steel gripped my wrist and pulled me up like I was more toy than man. "Iron," said the platoon sergeant as he stood me up and jammed the handle of an M1917 revolver into my chest. "Move." The first step I took was unconscious, just a machine following a command. Reyes moved past me, firing his rifle out of my field of view. The holster at his side for his revolver was empty, its weight instead sitting in my hand. I hadn't held a Smith & Wesson in some time. It wasn't as heavy as I remembered. The second step was more difficult. I tried to look for someone to help, but every fight happened too quickly to react. Halfway across the yard, a Viet Cong shot the Chow guy, but before I could raise my gun, Dan shot him dead. My shaking hands shifted the barrel to another Viet Cong, sprinting shoulder first into Moose, knocking them both into a tent just next to me. Their shadows thrashed visibly, but I had no idea who I'd hit. Running forward, I made my way to the tent entrance in time to see Moose slamming an old metal canteen into his attacker's temple. He straddled his shoulders on the ground and shouted hoarsely as he struck him again and again. I turned around to see a man with a machete charging the sergeant. Reyes stood about 20 paces ahead of the man, gaze focused on the sight of his rifle. My finger squeezed the trigger. Check the hammer. Again. No recoil, no muzzle flash, no shotgun. I don't remember thinking about why the gun didn't fire at the time. My brain likely didn't think it was worth the time it would waste. Instead, it focused on the sandbags between Reyes and me, the bags the Vietnam soldier was running around. Revolver still in hand, I took as large steps as my legs allowed and pushed myself up as hard as I could. My chest cleared the bags by almost a foot as I dove over and landed with a thud into the man with the machete. As he crumpled into the dirt, I stuck the barrel into his face. He froze, eyes wide, looking into the barrel of the gun. Reyes turned behind him to see us, and I saw him freeze too, watching me. At the same time, over the course of a few seconds, both the man and I came to the same realization. Our eyes drifted to the chambers of the gun, chambers that I hadn't had time to look at. 6 individual chambers, but only one round. The dark eyes of the Vietnamese man still stared at me as I sat on him. While my body thrashed side to side, I couldn't help but think, for a man trying to wrestle me off of him, he's remarkably still. But he wasn't trying to wrestle me off. Instead, his body shook even more than mine. Gunfire and screaming were overtaken and trampled by the sound of a deep, deep rumbling. The trees shook and swayed, but no wind touched us. Fitter men than I lost their footing and fell as they fought on ice. That was when I heard the first crack in the earth. A great snapping as if the mud were taut with tension. Then another, a third, a fourth. Then, with Reyes still watching, the earth swallowed me whole. It was dark when I woke up. Not sure how many hours later. I still saw the sky above, to my surprise. At least, what sky I could see through the tree canopy. A bit of moonlight drifted below, illuminating the bare minimum of the small clearing I lay in. The air around me was silent, still with anticipation. I couldn't hear the sounds of fighting. I didn't hear anything aside from a gentle dripping of water somewhere to my left. One by one, I wiggled my toes, then my fingers, and ankles, hips, and neck. I was sore all over, but miraculously, I felt like I could still move. Painfully, I managed to sit upright and get a better look around as I took a knee. The ground beneath me was hard stone, splattered with mud and dirt. The clearing I was in was too big for the moonlight to fill, but the narrow cone illuminated probably 15 yards around. A couple of tent stakes had fallen into the hole with me, with us. Sitting at the edge of the light, feet under his bottom, was the Viet Cong soldier. His machete lay across his lap, and the gun rested at his feet. He had ripped his sleeve off and tied it across his bloody forehead to keep his eyes clear. Eyes that still watched me intently as I came to my senses. Staring back at him, I stood up straight and raised my hands in front of me to defend myself. He remained sitting. Neither of us moved or spoke for minutes. My platoon was gone, or at least out of earshot, and I was stuck in a deep hole in the dirt with someone who likely wanted to kill me. And he had both weapons. But again, he did not move. I had no idea how much longer he had been awake than me. But if it was even 2 minutes, hell, if it was 1, he could have killed me. I was helpless. I was spared. My hands lowered to my sides, and my eyes drifted to the gun at his feet. Whistling softly, he let go of a breath I hadn't heard him take in. We both looked down at the gun, then back at each other. "You speak any English?" He shook his head. I didn't speak Vietnamese. Pointing at the gun, I said, "I need that." Without looking down at it, he picked up the gun and hit the release on the cylinder. He gently replaced the pad of his thumb on the back of the lone bullet, Reyes's bullet. With an exaggerated flick, he snapped the cylinder closed. Still rooted to the ground, I watched him, gun in one hand, machete in the other, stand up and step towards me. From the edge of the moonlight, he took maybe 10 paces, until there was no more than a couple of yards between us. Holding it by the barrel so the butt stuck out, he held the gun out in offering. I just needed to walk over and take it. Despite the machete in his hand, this didn't feel like a trap. I walked over and took the gun. His chest wasn't moving, as if he were holding his breath again, watching me. White knuckles gripped his machete, but not as white as mine holding the gun. 1 bullet. 1. A bullet that did not belong to me, in a gun I should not have been given. But as I stood in front of the man who spared me, I knew the bullet didn't belong to him either. I tucked the revolver into my waist, and we both sighed with sagging shoulders. We weren't going to kill each other, but that didn't mean we'd live the night. Without a word, we stepped away from the light and started looking around the clearing where we landed. 8 months into my job as a tunnel rat, and even I couldn't see in the dark. Roughly 20 yards past the light, I found a wall. It was made of the same stone as the floor and was dry to the touch. Keeping a strained ear out for where I heard the other soldier, I walked the opposite direction around the cave, gently pressing my hand to the wall and dragging it behind me. I felt for anything at all. For the first time since the ambush, I had time to think. I thought about the earthquake that dropped me here. I thought about Reyes and why the hell he had given me a gun with only 1 bullet. Why his gun only had 1 bullet. Moose would have made some dumb joke. Something about playing Russian roulette with the top brass. I'm not Moose. My mind drifted to one thing. The same thing any man who'd kept 1 bullet in a gun has thought. It's not as if a revolver with 1 round is any good in war. A revolver with 1 bullet is only useful in your tent. My nail caught on a rock, and I stifled a yelp as it dug into my finger and yanked my arm. I strained my ears, listening. The other man in the cave kept moving. Maybe he didn't hear. Maybe he didn't care. He did not stop. I did. Moving my hand past where it was caught, I felt a gap in the wall, roughly 1.5 yards across and 1 yard tall. Inside the wall of this clearing was a hole that hopefully led up. The Viet Cong soldier didn't stop moving. I stayed where I was, keeping my hand by the hole so I didn't lose it. When he had worked his way around the wall to me, he stopped, like he knew I was there. How the hell do I tell him there's a tunnel here? I thought. Taking a step to the side, I rapped my knuckles on the stone wall. A hollow echo followed, along with a grunt from the man as he stepped closer. Rattling metal scraped its way through the dark and into my head. It sounded like he was sticking the machete into the tunnel to gauge its depth. Big enough for us to crawl into. But to where? I looked back at the hole we fell into and the shifting moonlight falling from it. I didn't see another option. Matter of fact, I didn't see anything at all. Without another thought, before I could doubt myself, I hiked my knee up and climbed into the hole in the earth. Surprisingly, it was almost comfortable compared to the tunnels I was used to. The stone was painful to crawl on, but as I crawled, there was almost a foot of clearance above my head and a few inches to either side of my shoulders. Shortly behind me, I heard the men follow. There was no way to tell where we were going, but barely above the sound of us crawling, I could hear the sound of dripping water. I made my way towards it. Minutes passed in almost total silence. Often in the tunnels, my ears were my most valuable tool, listening for movement, for whispers, and death. Here, they heard nothing, just the constant dripping and the occasional scrape of the machete tip on the stone. Lacking my flashlight, my eyes were even more useless. Licking sweat from my lips, I inhaled deeply through my nose, desperate for some information to feed my tumbling brain. Nothing, not even the familiar scent of the moss, made its way down here. Sloping downward, we made our way deeper into the tunnel. Occasionally, I would feel the sides of the walls around me, checking for any branching paths. I could hear him feeling around behind me too. Blood began to rush to my head, and my sweaty hands struggled to grip the floor as the tunnel sloped down more steeply, every few yards angling further by a few degrees. If the earth swallowed me whole during the earthquake, now it felt like I was making my way into its guts. My shoulders brushed against the walls of the tunnel, feeling it compress around us as we crawled. A prouder man like Reyes or Moose would have been stuck, but my body was practically designed for this. Tucking my shoulders into my neck, I breathed out with each crawl forward, stopping to breathe in every few seconds. The tunnel was still sloping further down, and it took serious effort not to slip. I thought I was doing okay, able to take it slow and guide us at a safe pace. As long as we didn't slip, we could make a controlled descent. To where? I wasn't sure, but it was too late to turn back now. Unfortunately, as the minutes went by, my shaky confidence deflated. While the sound of dripping felt almost right in front of me, I heard intense breathing behind it. Sharp breaths in, rattling breaths out. My begrudging companion was beginning to hyperventilate. He was panicking, his breath growing more ragged every second, and I had no idea how to calm him down. Hey, I said sharply. He didn't respond, obviously unable to understand me. I stopped moving, trying to give him time to stop and rest. Either he didn't notice, or in his panic, he didn't care. He pushed into me hard, shoving me forward. I gripped my fingers tight, trying to latch onto any holds in the ground, but no such luck. Slamming my chin into the rocks, we fell down the hole together. My chin, cheeks, and hands were tracked on the rough ground as we tumbled down the tunnel for what felt like forever. Rolling around, I barely avoided him landing on top of me. Groaning on the ground for a moment, I touched my face to feel it was sticky with blood, the skin rubbed raw. Accident aside, we had managed to find a way out of the cavern we were stuck in. Now we were in another cave, one much deeper underground and with no moonlight to show the scope of it. Shit, I swore, pissed at the man. I got onto my feet, not thinking about how high the ceiling may be. I stepped back in the dark, away from him as he still hyperventilated and struggled to breathe. Patiently, I took a few breaths myself and waited for him to calm down. We were here together, but I still don't trust him not to start swinging if I touched him. While I waited for him to compose himself, I started ripping some cloth from my shirt, like he had, to soak up the blood. Wincing in pain, I tapped my face and wrapped my palms. The air was cooler down here, drier, and despite the lack of circulation, it was a welcome change to my lungs. Crouching back down to my knees, I started to feel my way around, letting my hands explore the ground in front of me and the walls beside me. I felt for anything at all. Desperation crept into the back of my mind, and I'd be lying if I said it didn't. I kept moving because I couldn't think of anything else to do. The dripping was gone, the cave now eerily silent. Picking a direction at random, I began to move. It took 30 paces to find something in the dark. For the first time since I tucked the gun into my waist, I felt something that wasn't rock. It was rubber. Unmistakably, the textured and worn-down sole of a boot. I froze. Holding my breath, I waited to feel it move. It didn't. We were in a pitch-black cave, dozens of yards underground, through a long tunnel, after falling into a hole in the earth, far away from any civilization. Snaking my hand up the boot to touch the leg that wore it, I confirmed my suspicions and eased my breathing. This was a corpse, cold, thin fabric draped over a narrow calf whose muscle had all but rotted away. Without a moment's hesitation to consider what I was doing, I searched the body for anything I could take. There wasn't much, save for an empty canteen, a couple of feet of rope, and a metal tube with what felt like glass at the end. Catholic-born as I was, I picked up the metal tube and began to pray that it was what I thought it was, and that it still worked. Fidgeting around for the button on the side, I clicked it. Nothing. I gave it a gentle shake, hearing a rattling from inside, and clicked the button again. The flashlight released a pale yellow beam that couldn't have reached more than a few feet away. After so long in the dark, it might as well have been the damn sun. Attached to the corpse's hip, I could see the rope I had felt. It let off a few feet before the end frayed, snapped under pressure. The body was that of a Vietnamese man, though it was impossible to see any discernible features. Littered on the ground around it were empty wrappers and a few tins of what used to be salted fish. Looking around with the light, I searched for where he might have dropped from, assuming the rope was how he got here. With the dim light, I had to walk around to see the full span of the cave we were in. It was about 60 paces wide and 40 across. There was more room across, but I stopped at the edge of a small body of water. The ceiling sloped down hard over the glassy surface, but I could see it kept going underneath. Would I rather starve than blindly cave dive? I thought. Presumably not, but I kept it in the back of my mind and kept walking. Almost directly above the tunnel we fell through, I saw a hole in the ceiling. About 10 feet up, draped from the hole, was the frayed end of the rope, and dripping from the wet edge of the rock was a slow trickle of water. This was the hole the dead man had entered from, and hopefully our way out. But I couldn't climb it alone. I would need a boost. I turned the light on the man with me for the first time. Feeling a glow on his hands, he took them away from his face and squinted at me. His face was wet, with both tears and water dripping onto his hair. We needed to communicate. If he didn't trust me to pull him after he boosted me, he wouldn't help me up, and the feeling was mutual. Stepping towards him, I tried to speak again, hoping my tone and body language conveyed more than my words. "John," I said, shining the light so he could see me pressing my fingers into my chest. I turned it back to him, pointing, and asked, "You?" He didn't respond. Still wary, the man sat and watched me, as if he expected me to go on. I wasn't really sure what to say, so I said the first thing that came to mind. Funny enough, it was a story from before I came to Vietnam, from back when I was in boot, and first met the man I call Sergeant. "The guy you were running at with that," I said, pointing at his machete and chuckling nervously. "His name is Reyes. Known him for years now. good man, I think. War is just stressful, you know. The first day I met him, I continued, knowing I was only speaking aloud to myself. He smiled at me and shook my hand. Told me, "That's a big gun for a little man. You sure that's what you want?" I smiled back and told him I didn't know I had a choice. He told me there's always a choice. Told me if I wanted, I could be a tunnel rat. Every platoon needed them, always in short supply. Without him saying a word, and without knowing if he understood me, I spent time telling the men how I was horrified by the tunnels. I wasn't claustrophobic by any means, but the thought of crawling in tunnels full of traps and enemy soldiers sent a shiver up my spine. But month by month, my time in the field wore me down. Every long patrol, every sandbag I filled, every beer I saw the sergeant drink that the rest of us would be lucky to get the backwash of. It took him a long time, I said, but Reyes got his damn rat. He looked at me, the crusty yellow glow of the flashlight showing a look in his eyes I didn't recognize. He scans me, judging me. After a long pause, he put his hand to his chest and said, "Long fun." "A long fun," I repeated. He nodded. Even if only a little, we understood each other. Long said a short prayer and bowed to the dead man before cutting the remaining rope from his body. It took us a few minutes to organize it, but I boosted him into the hole above us. Taking the end of the dangling rope with both hands, he lifted himself up until he was high enough to wedge his back into the tunnel wall with his feet on the opposite side. All it took for me to follow after he tied together the two pieces of rope was a small hop. We were able to push our backs into the walls with our legs as we ascended, letting us rest our arms as we needed. Long had our flashlight since he was ahead now. Below me, the cave might never have existed. It was so dark. If I hadn't seen them, I couldn't prove the cave, the dead man, or even the tunnel we fell from had ever been there at all. One thing, however, I was positive was still there: the water. As dark as it was, I could still hear the sound of splashing. Something slapped the water's surface underneath me. Long and I froze. Something wet slapped on the stone. Above me, I saw the light held in Long's hand shaking. Something was crinkling the wrappers by the dead man. We had been climbing for almost 5 minutes, and I must have been 20 yards off the ground. Something was tugging on the end of the rope. Spoken underneath me, softly and gently, like a father tucking me in to sleep. Something said, "Zoop." Again, the rope tugged, and I heard it start to climb. Pressing my shoulder into Long's face, I shoved him hard, pulling myself further. He led our climb again, faster this time. We lifted ourselves with our arms and legs, and caught ourselves with our backs. Whatever was after us was slow, swinging itself around as it climbed. The rope underneath me twisted and dangled wildly, only occasionally pulling itself taut with weight. As we climbed, Long held the flashlight in his mouth. My face was facing straight up, looking into his glowing jaw. On the off chance his flashlight had fallen and pointed down, I refused to look underneath. We gained a lot of distance at first. As we climbed, the tunnel narrowed. Just like the first, it wasn't as tight, but it was enough that we couldn't press our legs out and had to rely more on our aching arms. There was room to either side of my shoulders, but as the thing underneath me swung itself, I swung with it, banging again and again on the stone wall. I willed my arms to hold me and kept lifting myself forward. Eventually, I heard Long Fan grunt and saw his head disappear in the dark. Trusting that I was better than the alternative, I shifted up again. A moment later, the light shone directly back in my face. It illuminated Long's legs as he sat on the edge of a narrow exit. He lifted his legs away from me and spun onto his stomach, shining the light down at me with one hand and holding his fingers out with the other. The rope went taut. I pushed through whatever pain my body told me it had and shifted up one more time. I kicked down into the wall, pushing myself up as I reached out and latched onto Long's hand. He managed to pull me up, getting my head just over the edge. Swinging my other hand over the side, I slammed them down and pushed my ass over the ledge. Only my hips made it up, then were dragged back down as something latched onto my foot. It sounded like jamming your thumb in the wet socket between a chicken's thigh and drumstick. Something sharp dug into my ankle with a sucking pop and tried to drag me down. My chest hit the rock and knocked the wind out of me. Long grabbed my shoulder, and for a moment I considered pulling out the gun. Was one shot enough? I thought. Could I hit it? Feeling my hands slip on the ground, I dug my fingernails into the rock, grinding as I pulled. Long dropped the flashlight beside himself and used both hands to tuck me up from my armpits. With my other leg kicking off the stone behind me, we lifted most of my body into the open space. At the time, I only felt the searing, ripping pain in my ankle. Even as I clawed at the ground, I tracked myself away from the hole. Even as Long Fan stopped helping me and grabbed his machete, I could feel the shredding pain as what I could only describe as a mouth with human teeth attempted to swallow my foot whole. That pain occupied my mind as Long hacked off my leg at the base of the calf. The exit to the tunnel wasn't wide enough for him to get any clean swings at it. He would have to hit the rock instead, letting it drag me deeper as I lost my strength to fight. Couldn't tell you how many swings it took him to get through the bone. Eventually, he got it, and I felt the weight pulling me like an anchor being released all at once. I was free, bloody, crying, free. Immediately, Long picked up the light and swung wildly at the rope. It was attached to a nail hammered into the rock a few feet from the entrance. As the metal bent itself on the rock under the rope, I lay perfectly still, bleeding. But suddenly, it stopped hurting. I'm in shock, I thought. Rolling on my side, I tried to reach for my pockets for a bandage I knew I wasn't carrying. I only felt the gun. Whatever was climbing the rope fell with a deep thud as he managed to cut it free. Long tied something tight around the bottom of my thigh, an improvised tourniquet, something to help me stay awake just a little longer. I felt him wrap my arm around his shoulder to help me up. We took a dozen uneasy steps. After climbing God knows how long, all of my muscles should have been aching, but I didn't feel them. I felt only the jolts in my spine as I hopped forward, leaning on Long Fan. Slow progress, but progress. He held the light in front of him, shining it around shakily. I remember hearing him muttering something under his breath every few seconds. Madai. Meager as the light was, it could not illuminate the massive cavern we were inside now. The walls around us were a few yards away at first, but as we walked, they opened further than I could see. In the darkness somewhere ahead, I heard something again, but this time a sound I knew well. "Heard that?" said the voice of a young man. Something firm hit the ground, and I saw a blinding light in the distance. It scraped the walls around us, managing to catch Long and me in it. From behind my tightly closed eyelids, I heard, "John, you down here?" It was Dan, and behind him I heard another pair of boots hit the ground, and then a third, and a fourth. My platoon had found me. I was too weak to call out to them, but they saw me and ran forward anyway. They stopped 10 paces in front of me, looking at Long as he supported me, and looked back at them. They didn't see my missing foot first. They saw him holding me. A second stretched between us as I saw the gears turn in their minds. But the gears do not spin long in a soldier's head. They kept moving and lifted me higher off of my foot. Long leapt back, hands held palms out in front of him. His machete was left behind, freeing a hand to help me walk. Adjusting to the blinding lights, I saw that none of the men helping me out of the tunnel had their weapons turned on him. They simply turned back and carried me home. We set up a temp camp in a cave, John. Moose said to me as we walked. About a mile from patrol base in the bush, Reyes already called for a lift. We're getting out of here. As he spoke, I heard Long follow us. They took me up a short wall and around a few corners, and suddenly I saw light. It was morning, and the golden glow of the sky glinted through a wall of sticks and leaves built around the cave entrance. Close to 30 men sat in the cave they carried me into, all of them sitting save one. "And just what the hell are you boys doing here? I told you to stand patrol," Reyes hissed at first, letting his voice rise into a shout as he stared at the men around me. "Sir, we heard a noise further down," Dan said. Reyes looked into my eyes, and I saw concern. He paused, mulling over the words to say to me, coming up with a reason they didn't come looking. Before the moment took too long, he saw the men trailing behind us. Long Fan crept in, looking scared but steady. "What the hell are you morons doing?" Reyes shouted, spit flying out of his mouth. He glared at Long, looking between me, Moose, and Dan. They didn't know what to say, and I was too weak to say it. I wanted to save my energy. Done waiting, and with every man present as witness, he reached for his revolver. When he felt the empty leather, he looked at me and pleaded, "Kill him." My sight was narrowing, and my mind was foggy, making it difficult to think straight. I took the gun out from my waist and thumped back the hammer. Chambered next was the lonely round. Long Fan stood to my side as I turned to him slowly. The revolver weighed heavy in my hand. My finger on the trigger was weak, but I knew I had enough strength for just one pull. He looked at me, begging me silently to spare him. I knew this bullet did not belong to me, but I knew it was not his either. Moose said it first, then Dan, then another man and another. Every member of my platoon shared the same story when the brass came to pick us up. Reyes B. R.A. 17-294-555. AB positive. No preference. Killed. In action.
Alright, so my grandpa is kind of a goofball. Well, he's more a full-blown psychopathic lunatic. A lunatic that lives in the room next to me. The entirety of our family casted us out because of the shit my grandpa pulled during his younger years. I won't really go into that, but to give you an idea, he's been an addict for most of his life and suffered everything he could have because of it. From gang violence to overdoses, from harassment to full-blown rape. It's probably better if I start from when shit really went down in not only his, but also my life. 6 years ago, when I just entered high school and my kid brother entered elementary, my grandpa got a huge cut in his forearm. For some reason, the cut never really healed properly, and at some point, mostly because of his negligence, it got infected, so the doctors had to amputate it. He didn't really seem to mind and was rather calm when we brought him to the hospital. But then, he did what he usually does. Start some random shit. He asked the nurse to give him a bag of blood for him to take home, because he said he felt dizzy and would really need it. After the nurse repeatedly told him no, he presumably started to attack her, screaming, "Just one bag, you filthy bitch! He doesn't want mine anymore, don't you understand?" Luckily, the nurse didn't sue him, for I'm sure we would have to pay for him because my mother's heart can't bear seeing her father serve time. She probably knows that once he's in, he'll either stay there for good or get out in a body bag. From that day onward, I kept hearing him say, "I want to go back," in the middle of the night. After a few months, he started to become stable again, even better than he was before the amputation. My mother even let him take my little brother to the park after he kept begging her to let him spend more time with his grandsons. She accepted, but of course, both me and my mom came along to keep an eye on him. If only we did a better job. And half an hour before we were about to leave the park, both my mother and I let our guards down, and before we knew it, my little brother and my grandpa had disappeared. We called the police, and a whole operation had started, but they were both nowhere to be seen. Until my grandpa came home that night, telling us that someone kidnapped my little brother. He didn't answer any of our questions with a clear answer. The only thing he said was, "I can finally go back," making us suspect the worst. We called the cops, but as soon as my grandpa noticed, he struck my mom and made a run for it. I haven't seen him since. A few years later, I got a note in my locker that said, "It's really great here. I wish you could see it all. The underworld is really something else. I still miss you both, you and your mom. Could you do me a favor and leave some money near the dumpster at the local coffee shop? Something like 1 or 2,000 will be enough. Grandpa." I made sure to keep everything about what happened to my grandpa a secret from the people at my school. So, although it's still possible they found out, it's very unlikely that this was some kind of prank. I'll tell you guys right off the bat, I didn't go to the dumpster, even if my grandpa would be there, because I'm too scared to see him again. Last year, they finally found what was left of my little brother. In the sewers, a short distance from the park we visited, a group of teenagers found him when they were trying to make a spooky vlog. The following part took me a whole week to write, because every time I tried, my finger started to go numb for some reason. His neck was chained to a wall, and his skin was pale as could be. The autopsy showed he died of chronic anemia only a month ago. His body was filled with puncture wounds, and there were empty cans of soup and other foods scattered across that part of the sewer. My grandpa was still nowhere to be seen though. Yesterday, a package arrived at our doorstep. The package had my name on it, so my mom just handed it to me without opening it. I didn't order anything recently, so I wasn't really sure if I should have opened it, but it had my name on it. So I took the package to my room and opened it. A small moment before I did, my mind sent me some eerie thoughts. Don't tell me Grandpa sent me some body part of my little brother, I thought. As soon as I opened it, my heated body started to cool down. There was a camera and a note. It read, "I hope this package reaches you well. Some punks must have found my place because I saw this camera near your little brother's body after I got back from doing shopping. I went to the underworld as soon as I could because the police would have arrived sooner or later. Anyway, you probably know what I did to your little brother. I'm not sorry for it. He didn't want my blood anymore, so I had to find someone with the same type of blood as I. I'm sure you must be mad, but you won't be once you see how awesome this place is. I took the camera with me so you can find out yourself. He told me to never record anything, but I still did it. Fuck him. Take a look, I'm sure you'll like it. P.S. If you want to come too, meet with the man in the video around minute 4 or something. He can be pretty hard to find though. He'll tell you what he wants for the trip to the underworld." I haven't watched the film yet, but I will, as soon as the chills stop running through my body. I watched his recordings, and I came up with 3 possibilities to explain what I've seen. Either he's someone knows, some really tech-savvy guy that put this shit together, or his lunacy is something genetic and bit by bit I'm also going insane. Or that cunt actually found something. Some really strange place. After waking up, or more like, after getting out of bed, not sleeping for the whole night, I decided I should just take a look before the curiosity consumes my whole life. There are 5 recordings. I'll give a summary of each of them. The first one starts off with him in the sewer, with 30 seconds of him aiming the camera at the floor, not realizing he already started the recording. After a swift shot of my little brother's body, he walked through the sewers. Without speaking, he climbed up a ladder, walking the dark streets of our city. A homeless man walked up to him, asking, "I'm sorry, ma'am. Do you know where I can find the supermarket?" My grandpa pulled out a knife, shocking the homeless man, who put his hands up after seeing it. "Oh, hold this camera. I'm making a film for my grandkid," he said. He gave the camera to the homeless man, who was now filming my grandpa. My God, I thought. He was wearing a dress riddled with holes, a wig and a face full of makeup, looking like something between a clown and an old woman. "Hey kid, what do you think? Pretty fancy, huh?" he said as the homeless man's hands were shaking the camera. My grandpa hit the homeless man with his stump, yelling, "Don't move, damn it. I'm going back to the underworld today. I'm so excited. I can finally show someone how great it is there. I'll be meeting my buddy." My grandpa stopped talking after the homeless man started to shake again. He lunged towards the man fiercely. I wasn't really sure what happened, but I'm guessing he took a stab at him because he started to scream for help, after which my grandpa started running with the camera. A minute later, he showed a man in the far distance with a black hat and a tall coat. "That's him. Remember him, kid. I'm going to put the camera in my pocket now." The camera was able to film the waist of the man through a hole in his dress. I'm guessing he walked up to the man as I could hear them talking. The sound was muffled, but I heard my grandpa's voice clear enough. "I got one more jar," he said. After some altercation, he started begging the man. Please take it. It's all I have." I couldn't really hear what the man was saying. The words I could make up were, "We've got enough of that. I need valuable. Maybe..." My grandpa started to say, Of course, a bunch of time, after which he got something from his other pocket and started to shake. The camera's vision got blocked by the dresses cloth for a second, after which my grandpa asked, "This much?" The man didn't say anything. And after some movement, my grandpa gave a short scream. I'm guessing he wanted to scream more, because he crouched down for a minute or two, shaking on the ground. My eyes were totally hooked on the camera, as I felt my hands were beginning to sweat. He stood up after some time and straightened his dress with his still trembling hands. I could see through the hole again. He handed the man something. "This will sell very well," the man said, as he took what could only be my grandpa's sexual organ, slowly leaking blood, flowing down his arm. I'm going to be completely honest. I had to clean a lot of vomit off the camera after seeing that part. They started walking, but after some time, my grandpa fell and the camera didn't pick up much sight nor sound. The next recording started with my grandpa's face, now without makeup, looking in the camera. "Hey there, the transaction went through. I'm waiting for my buddy to come pick me up. I'm going to put you in my bag for now. Don't worry, you haven't seen shit yet." He kept the camera rolling, but for a whole hour, I couldn't hear or see anything extraordinary, other than my grandpa giggling like a maniac. After a loud yell, one that seemed more like a scream of joy than of pain, He started digging through his bag, searching for the camera. We're here, he said, as he showed me a wooden room without any windows. I figured out it was a basement, for he started to move up some stairs. He was in some kind of old-fashioned house. He exited the house and showed me a street full of people with different colored hair. All of them were young, I'm guessing between 20 and 30 years old. Most of the girls were quite good looking, and the men were also handsome. Hey, how much time for sunrise? My grandpa asked out loud, not really talking to anyone specific. No one reacted. When will it be sunrise? He yelled. A man started walking up to him. Calm down, old man. Like 2 minutes or something. What's that in your hand? Did you bring something new? He yelled, after which everyone started to gather around my grandpa. He raised his hand and showed me all of the people around him, together with a wider view of the village. The village was in some kind of desert, and the houses were all made of wood. He started laughing like a madman again. Yes, I brought you something amazing from Earth. But first, I need to see the sun, he yelled to the crowd. Look closely, he whispered to the camera, as he pointed his camera to the moon. I kept thinking, what the fuck, through every minute of his recordings. But after he showed me the sky, I really started to flip out. He pointed the camera at the moon for a minute, and then it happened. The moon exploded, sending a wave of light throughout the whole sky. The sky turned completely dark for a few seconds, after which, out of the same spot the moon was in, a ball of light appeared with a great bang, turning night into day. The sun seemed the same as ours, but everything around it didn't, for wherever my grandpa was at that moment, the sky there was not blue, but a mellow shade of pink. Do you understand now? I had watched the explosion over and over again for at least 20 times before I move on to the third recording. I was hesitant at first, but I think it's time I introduce myself officially. My name is Basil Porton, but I go by Porter, even by my mother, since I am the only one left in our house that still carries my father's last name. I'm a teenager, born in the US, but my mother is British, and after the family casted us out, we moved to East England. You already know a lot about my grandpa, Warwick Murrow, also known as Matt Murr. Now, where was I left? The third recording was a walk through the village. My grandpa was quite famous in the strange village he called the Underworld. People would wave at him wherever he went, and a lot of people would come up and talk to him, mostly about Earth, like it was some kind of foreign place to them. I wasn't sold on the fact that my grandpa was in the Underworld. Maybe he just joined some society filled with crazy people like himself. In the fourth clip, he sat down on a bench and started explaining stuff to me. He talked about how it's never too hot or too cold, about how the sun and moon change places after every 6 hours, about how there are many kinds of plants that don't exist on Earth, and about how he can finally be accepted here, as the madman he is. Porter, I want to live here forever, but it's difficult. You see, these people, they don't starve, they don't thirst, they don't even bleed as we do. But I, as I hate to accept it, am very human. The only reason I have to go back to Earth is because at some point, my food and water runs out, and I have to go back before I'm too weak to stand on my legs. Besides, I can't do my job if I can't think clearly. Why don't you join me and bring some food and beverages while you're at it? And bring a lot. It was the first time my grandpa ever said he had any kind of job. I wondered what he was doing. He took a sip of his favorite drink. Although most would expect it to be something alcoholic, my grandpa loves to drink buttermilk. Personally, I hate it, but yeah, we don't have a lot in common anyway. The price to enter the underworld is expensive, but worth it. he said. My buddy is looking for parts of us humans. He sells them to certain people. In return, he gives a ticket to the underworld. At first, he only wanted our family's blood. He said that we were famous here, and that collectors were willing to pay huge sums of money to get a jar. After a few years though, the market changed. They wanted other pieces of us. Still worth it though, he said with a chuckle. I could never forgive my grandpa for the things he has done, but I was content with letting things end here. For all I care, he can chop himself up until the day he dies. Living there instead of here is probably for the greater good. I'm going to make one more recording before I call it quits. I have things to do. I'm a busy man in the underworld, he said. Porter, dinner's ready, my mom shouted from downstairs. Just a minute, I shouted back. I started the last recording. I might as well finish it before I go eat dinner, I thought. I'm going to see my boss. He's kind of a lunatic, but he lets me live, so I can't really complain, he said. What the fuck? I thought. Lets me live? Porter! Just a minute, Mom, I yelled back. My grandpa started walking through the desert until he reached a well. Hold on, Porter. I need my hand now, he said and put the camera in his pocket. I assume he climbed down the well because when I could see again, he was in some kind of underground place with torches on both sides of the walls, leading the way deeper down. We're almost there, he whispered. With each step, the tension rose. My body started heating up, but after sweating profusely throughout all the clips, I had no moisture left to excrete. Then, he stopped moving, just as my heart stopped beating for a bit. Because in front of him was the most ominous and eerie-looking being I had ever seen, inciting a terror within me I never knew I could feel. Long white hair going down to his knees, a mouth with teeth that would put envy in every predator, eyes big as the moon, but mostly filled with the white, with only a speck of black the size of a pea in the middle, looking straight at my grandpa. Above all else though, a smile, from ear to ear. And no, not the expression, but literally, from ear to fucking ear. He was not human, only humanoid. Welcome back, friend, the being said, with more air coming out of his giant mouth than sound. My grandpa fumbled with the camera, and then cut the footage. After the video stopped, I stared at the camera for a few minutes. After I got to my senses, I washed my face and walked downstairs for another horror to meet me. One that was more personal. I walked down steadily, halted quickly as an image burned itself into my memory, never to be forgotten. There lay the only person, the only one I had left. My mother, on the ground with a gigantic cut in her lower abdomen, about to pass out, bleeding steadily. In front of her, an open door with a trail of blood leading outside. Porty, it was him. Call the police, she said, after closing her eyes. I immediately took my phone, dialed 911, realized I wasn't in the US, and changed it to 999. I walked up to my mother with the phone squeezed between my shoulder and cheek. I was ice cold, focused on keeping her alive. I wasn't going to lose her. Not now. The smell of meatloaf had filled the house as I started applying pressure on her wound. The doctors told me her uterus had been cut out of her body, and that she was in a critical yet stable state at the moment. The police asked me questions, already suspecting someone, even though he had gone missing all these years. Should I show them the footage? It doesn't really prove anything, even if they believe me. For how long can they protect us? How long can they guard us from him? Do I even want them to take care of this? Until now, I had accepted everything he had done to us. mostly because I had no choice. But it seems that this won't end until I end him. The hunter must become the prey. Seeing that he stole a part of my mother, he must be on his way to the underworld now. I have to find the mystery man, because only he can lead me there. I went to the place where I saw my grandpa meet him. He wasn't there, so I went looking everywhere throughout the city, looking for this man, the only person that could lead me to my grandpa. I looked for 2 whole days as hopelessness started creeping in on me. What am I thinking? I can't do this. I'm still just a kid that hasn't even been in a single fight yet. I can't kill him even if I have to. Maybe he won't come for us again. Yeah, I'm sure this was just the last time. I thought, defeated. The tears started rolling down my cheeks. Of course he'll come back. And I won't be able to do anything. Strands of my hair were falling on the ground at my shoulders. I really am nothing like him, I thought. If anything, my grandpa always took what he wanted. He always acted however he wanted to. He acted as if the world belonged to him, which made him unstoppable. I am not like that. I stayed home for a week, visiting my mother in the hospital every night. After a week had passed, I forced myself to go to school. Maybe it'll get my mind off of things, although I really didn't want to see my friends or teachers at this moment of my life. I walked the empty halls of my school in the early morning. I moved my body, not knowing where I was going, until I realized that out of habit, my feet had brought me to my locker. I opened it slowly, after which a note fell out. I leaned down and picked it up. The moment I touched the paper, I remembered how my grandpa had left me a note all those years ago. A chill went down my spine as I picked it up and took a look. Hey dude, the boys and I haven't heard from you in a while, and you aren't answering our calls, messages, or opening the door. We're going on a camping trip. Yesterday and the day after tomorrow, it seems. So, we're going to skip school for a few days. If you're down, you can join us. Just give me a call, little bitch. Matthew. I chuckled for a bit. I forgot I had a social life after everything that happened to me. It sure is a more pleasant note than I had expected. My grandpa's note those years ago. What did it say again? I tried to remember. It's really great here. I wish you could see it all. The underworld is really something else. Could you do me a favor and leave some money near the dumpster at the local coffee shop? The coffee shop? Of course, I thought. I had come at an impasse. Give up and live my life to the fullest, enjoying it as much as I can. Or try to serve justice. And above all, revenge. I stood there with my head against the lockers, trying to think. But not a lot of thinking was going on. For the image of my mother laying there on the ground, the image of her in her hospital bed, was blocking every thought I tried to form. Do I even deserve to live if I don't even try to protect my loved ones? Fuck you, I thought. I'm going to end you and live the life I deserve to live. I started walking with the fire burning in my eyes. Am I brave? Am I wise? Or am I just foolish? Truth is that it doesn't matter. I will be whatever I need to be to make sure he stops breathing in this world and the one he has made me go through hell for. I had a lot to think about before this post. I don't know if what I'm going to do is right, but I have to see this through to the end. The world has been quite silent the past time, I thought, as I exited the bus. Here it is, the Littler, the coffee shop my grandpa wrote about. I did a Google search before coming, but I couldn't find anything about the mystery man, nor any information about this coffee shop. I wasn't going to enter the shop. I just had to get to the back. Looking around the shop, I found a small path that seemed to go where I wanted to be. I made my way, but was quickly stopped by a warm hand that gripped my shoulder. "Can I help you?" a voice asked. I turned around and saw a mountain of a man standing behind me. He was old, had glasses, with gray hair, slicked back like an Italian mobster. "Oh, I work here. I just wanted to check something in the back." "You don't work here." I do." "Kid," he whispered. "I own this place." Great, I thought. How easy can I fail the first step? I guess I'll just have to come back when he isn't looking. "He's there. But why would a kid like you want to see him?" he said, shocking me swiftly with his words. He knows? I thought. Oh crap, what do I do? "You shouldn't associate with people like him. Trust me," he followed. "I have to. There is something important I need to do," I said, looking him deep in his eyes. "Fair enough. I can only warn you, I suppose," he said, easing his grip on my shoulder. I kept on walking until he said, "Revenge is merely a march to one's own grave." His words struck me hard, but mentally I had already passed that point of doubt. I passed the corner, and there he stood, the mystery man, my grandpa's buddy, leaning against the coffee shop's wall. "Can I help you?" he asked upon seeing me. "I'm Warwick Murrow's grandchild," I responded. He stopped leaning and straightened his back. "Oh," he said. "Porter, right? He has talked about you a few times." I cut straight to the chase and asked, "What do you need me to do to get me to the underworld?" "Tone it down a notch. I don't want the whole neighborhood to know. I'm guessing your Grams told you about it." "Something like that." "Listen, I'm not a bad guy, so let me make things clear for you. You don't want to go there. I'm sure your Grams told you all kinds of fun stories about the place. But your kind won't survive that place." "What do you mean my kind?" I asked. "Nothing. Just go home, kid. I'm not going to help you do anything." Luckily, I was prepared. "If you don't tell me, I'm going to tell everyone about you in the underworld." "Good luck. Do you think anyone will believe you?" "What if I show them proof?" I said with a smile. "Proof?" he asked. "My grandpa made recordings of both you and the underworld." His eyes widened as he looked at me with an expression of pure surprise. "You're bluffing." "He traded his penis for a trip," I said. The man started to sweat profusely. I got him right where I wanted, I thought. "So you want a trip, huh?" he asked. "I want a trip and answers," I responded. "I don't know, kid. I could just kill you right now, you know?" His intimidation didn't work on me though. "If I don't return within an hour, my partner will post the videos on the internet for all to see." I bluffed, standing as tall as I could, not taking my eyes off him for a second. I was prepared, but not to this extent. "Alright, can we go to a different place and discuss this further?" he asked. "We'll do this right here, right now," I said. He started to laugh, but I still kept looking at him, as stern as I could. "Alright, kid, you got me," he said. "You're not going to the underworld after you hear everything I'm about to say to you anyway. To be honest, I'm partially to blame for everything that happened. People like me take people like your Grams to, what you call, the underworld. It is, if you believe it or not, a real place, filled with people that seem like humans, but are something very different. Just like Earth, our kind has good, but also bad people just living their everyday life. The gates to these worlds are guarded by people like me. I am a little bit different though. You see, humans are quite a rarity in our world. So there are a lot of people who pay huge amounts of money to have their pieces. So you make people give you body parts to go to this magical kind of place. No, not exactly, kid. I don't make them do anything. It's all their free will. If I don't recruit regular people, I scout people who are evil, like your Gramps. So you think of this as some kind of punishment? I don't really get what you're trying to do, because my grandpa wanted to go to this place. He killed my brother and attacked my mother. He said, and took a pause. Kid, here's the thing. No one is supposed to come out of that place alive. What do you mean? I asked. Your grandpa is the first client that has ever come back. I sent these evil people to the underworld to be hunted down by an accomplice of mine and make a few extra bucks off their body parts. My accomplice sells the body in Alum, and I sell the single body parts they pay me to my partners here on Earth. For some reason, your grandpa keeps finding a way to come back, and I have no way of reaching my accomplice. I just keep accepting his payment, hoping that he finally gets killed this time. Alum, I asked. If you call this place Earth, that place is what we call Alum. His story seemed to make sense. It would explain a lot. It's a lot to take in, I said. See, you don't want to go there, he said. Why did he go for my brother and mother? I asked. Well, in order not to take body parts of random people and to cause any national panic, I fool my clients by telling them only the parts of their bloodline are acceptable because they are special, even though they really aren't. Because they usually give the first part of their own body, and because they usually die after their first trip anyway. This usually doesn't cause any trouble. Usually. Why? Why didn't you just kill him here? He sighed. Kid, this world, just like mine, is a rough place. I was making money because of your Gramps. Although I didn't want to get involved, I'm not going out of my way to save people I don't know. You can blame me all you want, but at the end of the day, it was your Gramps that chose to hurt you and your family. I never forced him to do anything, alright? My eyes started to water, but I wasn't going to let myself cry. Why don't you just give me the recordings and we can just forget about all this? He asked. He was nowhere near a good person in my eyes, but he is honest. I'll get you the recordings, but I'm still going to the underworld. Consider the camera my payment. Fine, he said, gave me a few pats on my back, and said, let's go get your camera. We started to walk to my home without exchanging a single word on the way. I was deep in thought the whole way through, thinking about everything the mystery man had told me, about the underworld and the people that inhabit it. Although I was going there with a grim mission, I couldn't help but get excited. We entered the house. You can sit in the living room. I'll go get the camera upstairs, I said. I don't think you need to do that, he said while standing in the open doorway. He put his hand on my shoulder, then moved it to my neck and gripped it. Sorry, kid. It's just business, he said. I looked at his eyes, like the naive kid I am, and at that moment, I realized what kind of grand mistake I had made. I'm about to die. But at that moment, through the light that shone out of my doorway, an arm reached across, not my own, but the mystery man's neck. He pulled him away from me while stroking him. He turned around and got inside, kicking my frozen body out of the way. I fell on my ass and kept watching him choke the mystery man for a few seconds, until he stopped struggling and passed out. It was the owner I had seen in front of the coffee shop, the one that tried to stop me. I warned you, he said. I know. I won't be around to save you next time. Stay away from Alum and stay away from this man. No, I'm going. Are you out of your mind? He yelled. Listen, I don't know you. Thank you for saving me, but I'm still going to Alum to kill him. That man is the only way I can get there. I'll just talk to him tomorrow with a different strategy or something. You can't stop me, old man. He started to get angry as the wrinkles under his eyes started to deepen. 3 days, he said. What? I asked. You get 3 days to think about it. After the 3 days, if you still want to go, meet me at the Littler at midnight, he said. Oh, okay, I said, surprised. But first, I need you to give me the recordings. No, if I do, I won't have any leverage on that man over there. I won't be able to go. He walked up to me and grabbed both my arms and squeezed. Listen to me. Alem will be the death of you. If knowing this, you still want to go, I'll at least make sure you get there alive. But I have to put the safety of my kind first. So you either trust me and give me the recordings, or I'll go get them myself. He loosened his grip, and we started to move upstairs. I handed him the camera. He watched the first 2 clips, and then put it in his pocket. 3 days, he said. I nodded, and we started moving downstairs again. To my horror, the mystery man had disappeared. But before my body could panic, the coffee shop owner quickly said, "Don't worry about him." As I had already put my trust in him, I continued to do so. He gave me 3 days to reconsider my choice. But those 3 days will only be used to prepare my plan. My plan to kill Grandpa. First, I need a gun. A gun. A gun. A gun in England shouldn't be that hard, right? I thought, eating my breakfast at 2 o'clock like I always do. Even with Mom gone, I still eat Raisin Bran. I'm such a baby. I guess I'll buy some Cocoa Puffs when I go to the supermarket tomorrow. Well, let's see. Guns are illegal in this country. I don't know anyone that has any gang or mob ties, and I got about 26 pounds. Let's go look for some shady figures, I guess. At 9 o'clock p.m., I went to the park a few blocks away from my house, sat down on a bench filled with Sharpie drawings, and waited. This park is usually packed with the dangerous sort. 3 hours later, at around 12:30, they started coming. A gang of 5 boys, on average probably around 5 or years older than I am. They started to approach me, probably because I was staring at them the whole time. With each step they took with their fancy brand shoes, my heart started to beat faster and faster. "Hey there, kinda late for a kid like you to be outside, isn't it?" one of the boys said. "Yeah, don't you have school or something tomorrow?" another followed. Alright kid, just beat it, we're going to sit here. "I need one of them grabbed me by the arm and pulled me off the bench. "Come on now, chop chop." "Just say it, Porton. Just say it," I thought, but I still merely looked at them, and sensing from their faces, they were starting to get annoyed. "Oi, fuck off before we beat the shit out of you," one of them shouted. "I need a gun," I finally said. The group started to look at each other in confusion. "What did you say?" one of them asked. "Do you know where I can get a gun?" I said. One of them grabbed me by the collar and started moving me out of the park. But one of his friends, red-haired with a shabby-looking beard, stopped him, saying, "Guns aren't free, you know. How much you got on you?" I couldn't be honest. I don't really have an idea about the prices of weapons, but I'm pretty fucking sure 26 pounds won't cut it. "I got 1,000 at home," I said. Well, the ginger said. "Quite the green you got there, buddy. Why don't you bring it so I can get you a deal?" "Show me the guns first," I said. "I'll trade you this one for the 1,000, he said, pulling up his sweater, showing a silver-colored gun, the kind of which I have no idea of. Here's my chance, I thought, and lunged for the gun in his belt. There was no way I could get a gun in a clean way. I just have to grab it and make a run for it. My palms touched the gun. It was warm, heated by the boy's body temperature. My heart raced like Speed Racer as adrenaline was rushing through my veins. Turn and run, I thought. Turn and run. They were battle-hardened, for 2 of the boys reacted so swiftly that even though I was just a teenager on his own, they'd never let their guards down. One of them hit me in the head, followed by the other wrapping his palms around my wrist, making sure I wasn't able to pull the gun out of his friend's pants. My index finger reached for the trigger, and I tried to pull it, holding my breath, anticipating a blast that would most likely blow the ginger's dick away he wasn't used to. Lucky for him, and I guess for me too, the gun had its safety on. The one holding my wrist cocked his leg backwards and launched a knee in my guts, forcing every bit of fluid my body contained to spill on the ginger's fancy shoes. I fell down on my own vomit as the world stopped spinning for a moment. After a barrage of kicks to my sides, the boys helped me up and put me on the bench I was just sitting on. Alright, that's enough. Calm down. I'm not hurt," the ginger said. He lifted my hanging head by pulling my head towards the night sky. "What the hell were you thinking?" he asked, giving me a slap on the face with the palm of his hands. I need a gun," I uttered. "Why do you need a gun?" he asked. "He's going to kill me. Kill my mother." "Dude," one of the boys said. "Let's just leave him here. Fucker is probably crazy or something." "Look at him," the ginger said. "Look at his eyes. Look what he tried to do. He might very well be insane, but no fool would do this without a good reason." "What the fuck do you want, man? You want to adopt him or something?" he asked, laughing. "Kid, you're not getting a gun. Not off of us, that is. But trust me, all of us here believe that sometimes some people just have to disappear." My eyes started dropping tears, but I felt no sadness or humiliation in any sense. I just felt like crying, I suppose. I did just almost bite the dust. Maybe some of it got in my eyes, I thought in the midst of my interrogation. "Listen, does the person you need gone know that you want them gone?" he asked. I shook my head, indicating a no as answer. "Well, I guess you're lucky. Cherries are in season right now," he said with a smile, whispering a list of instructions into my ear. Granted, a consolation prize. I walked home defeated, if it could be called walking, in the state that I was in. Never in my life was I beat up this bad. Actually, this was the first legit time I got beat up. Television and movies are right. It fucking sucks ass. Well, I guess at least Mom didn't get to see me in this state. I wouldn't want her to be worried. I got home, instantly making my way to the living room couch. The stairs can wait until tomorrow. I closed my eyes, trying to comfort myself, thinking, you only have 3 days. Well, of course you can't find a gun in 3 days. You tried your best. Don't be sad. You're just a normal kid. Guns are for criminals and police officers. It would be pretty insane if a kid like you would be able to find a gun so quickly, right? What kind of mad world would you be? Would you be living in? Wait a second. I got up, barely, for my body had already prepared itself to fall asleep when my bottom had reached the soft cushions of the couch. I made my way up the stairs, holding the railing tight with every single step. I didn't enter my own room, but the one next to it. The one that belonged to him. I hadn't entered this room in years, ever since my little brother disappeared. My God, it was a freakish mess inside. Mom never bothered to clean it, I guess. It probably reminded her of everything that had happened. After an hour or two of searching, in a secret department in his desk, I found it. A 6-shooter and a box of bullets. Of course, a man like him would have a gun. I hope he likes the taste of lead. Fired from his own trusty sidearm. I'm going to need a lot of water, but I don't want to carry too much either. Dilemmas. I pushed the cart towards the fruit aisle. He didn't tell me to get sweet or sour cherries. It didn't matter anyway. I'll get sour, I guess. Okay, let me think. I got some snacks, I got some drinks, I got some canned food, just in case I'll be there for a long time. I just need some buttermilk and a non-see-through bottle, and we're done. I walked to the checkout. My body was covered with bruises. Even breathing caused me stings of pain. With every step, my eyes would twitch from the sting. My body was tender as can be, like a juicy steak. My stomach started to grumble. My God, a steak would be so good right now. I put my items on the counter. The cashier was a cute-looking girl. Short hair, light brown eyes, with a please kill me now look on her face. I let out a short laugh because of my thoughts. The people around me gave me weird looks, whilst the girl gave me a small smile, melting my heart in an instant. My face got hot, and I'm sure I was blushing. A girlfriend would be nice though. I never had one, now that I think about it. Focus, Porter. Now is not the time. You're a man on a mission. I said to myself as the person in front of me left, which left only the girl and I at the counter, as no one had queued behind me yet. That'll be £28.39, she said after scanning my groceries. I'm $2 short. Let me see what I can cut, I said. Oh wait, it's $26.39, she said, ignoring the screen that said $28.39. I'm still 39 cents short. Can you take one of the cans? She took a look at me that practically forced my dense mind to realize what she was doing. Oh, I said, and gave her the 26 pounds. Thanks, I whispered as I put the groceries in the plastic bag. In a different world, maybe this would be the start of something great. But unfortunately, I'm already on my way to one. I can't let anything put my mind off it. Besides, I'm too shy to make a move anyway. Even though the coffee shop owner probably won't like it, I'll be bringing my mom's camera with me to record everything I can in Alem. Although, on a murder mission, I'm sure I'll have many moments I'd like to eternalize, I hope. With all my money spent, I went home, spending the rest of the day preparing my arsenal, whilst imagining myself pulling the trigger on my grandpa. The only thing I'm doubting at this point is my ability to be as cold-blooded as him. I didn't always hate him, you know? Although he was always the way he is now. He was kind of the father figure after my dad left my mom when she was pregnant with my little brother. I don't really remember a lot about the time my dad was around, other than having a lot of arguments with my grandpa. My mom very rarely talks about him and his reason to abandon us. But I'm guessing one day he just had enough of my grandpa's bullshit and decided to leave. I mean, look at me. I'm practically going to turn myself into a murderer because of him. The following night was non-existing. Although the sky turned dark and the hours were silent, it still made no difference to me, for I spent every minute consumed by my own thoughts. A day later, at 10 p.m., 2 hours before our meeting time, I decided I should make my move to the coffee shop. I stood there, across the street, observing the shop and waiting, counting the seconds, the minutes and hours, who all felt as slow as snails. People started leaving the shop, first one by one, then in a group of various sizes. Lastly, a pink-haired girl left the coffee shop, after which no one followed. At 11:43 p.m., the owner stepped out and took a look at me, saying, "I see you've chosen to come," prompting me to walk towards him. "I've come to settle some personal matters. I hope you understand," I said. From the path I had used to get to the back of the coffee shop, the mystery man appeared with a blank look on his face. "How you've been, kid?" he asked. My eyes widened. Hey, I said, thinking, should I be scared? I mean, he did try to kill me. Don't tell me this is a trap. "Calm down," the owner said upon noticing my angst. "If you're scared of him, you should be. But I'm here to make sure he doesn't kill you." "Stupid old timer. Always has to meddle with my business," the mystery man said, with his hands in his pockets. "We're going on a trip, but I'll have to make sure you don't know where we're going," the owner said. "I'm going to blindfold you, to make sure you don't trip or something. You can hold on to my arm if you want to." "Before we blindfold him, he should know my condition. I'm quite sure this kid thinks he's getting a free pass," the mystery man said. "You're not actually going to do that to a kid, are you?" the owner said. "I don't discriminate. It'll be unfair for all those who had to pay for a trip through my gate. and it would slander my reputation. The mystery man said and started walking up to me. Listen, kid, the cost of a trip is a body part, chosen by whatever the market wants. Do you still wish to go? He was right, I thought. I actually thought I was going to be allowed to pass the gate without payment. I guess my test of courage had already started. This was probably my last chance to go home unscathed. It's been mostly talk before this, Porter. Show him what you're made of, I thought to myself as a drop of sweat fell from my forehead. Yes, I'm still going, I answered. The mystery man's face showed every bit of annoyance he got towards me. I'm sure he didn't expect me to accept. I turned my head to the owner, who gave me a disappointed look, judging the very essence of my choice to go. He seemed like a wise man, but I don't care what he thinks. I must do this. What body part do I owe you? I asked. I'm not telling you, the mystery man said, giving me a big fuck you for irking him. The trip will take about 5 hours, after which I'll extract the payment. Upon me receiving it, you may go through the gate, the mystery man said. How about the healing process? I asked. Don't worry about it, he said, making me worry about it. The owner put the blindfold on my eyes, making it as tight as possible. Before I knew it, I heard a car pull up, with the hands of the owner helping me get in. After several hours, my blindfold was taken off of me. My vision was blurry, slowly fixing itself on the image of the mystery man sitting in front of me on a wooden chair. The room was filled with a bitter smell, making me gag for a second. I looked around me with squinting eyes. I was in a room covered in dust and mold, beige and brown, with dark spots on the floor and walls, of what I can only imagine as dried blood. Last chance, fancy pants, he said with a pitiful face. I've never been as scared as this, I thought. Do you have anesthetics? I asked. Would you like that? He asked. I nodded as tears started flowing off my cheeks and mucus started dripping from my most likely red nose. Please, I begged. The mystery man put his palm on his forehead. Jeez, kid, you're not making it easy on me, are you? How about we call this whole thing off and let you go home? No, I shouted, wiping my tears. I'm sorry for crying. I can do this. Just get on with it. I'll put you to sleep, alright? Just remember, you will never get this shit back. Capiche? I nodded as he pulled out a small box and prepared a needle. After insertion, the world faded slowly as my eyelids got heavier. I'm coming for you, Grandpa. Just wait. I opened my eyes to an excruciating pain with the mystery man and the owner holding onto my shoulders. It's over, kid. You did good. Try not to waste the rest of your body in Alem. Lucky for you, where you're going, you won't even notice that it's gone, the mystery man said. I wanted to speak, but I couldn't. He gave me a mirror and said, I'll give you a few minutes to clean yourself before you go. I took a look in the mirror. My chin, and pretty much everything beneath it, was covered in blood. I slowly unhinged my jaw with the pain that almost prohibited every bit of movement in the area beneath my nose. My eyes had dried up, for I had already accepted everything that was coming my way. Neither sweet nor bitter words will ever leave my mouth again. In the mirror, between my red-stained teeth, stood the absence of an organ that broke my ability to ever French kiss a girl, curse my grandpa, or tell my mom I love her. As I will leave Earth after a few minutes, with my bruised body, missing tongue, and an acute anemia, I decided to post this part via my cell phone before I left. I'll make sure to capture everything I can with my camera. Until we meet again. I'm going to miss you guys. Wish me luck, because I can use every bit of it. Today, a package arrived at my coffee shop's doorstep, containing the username and password to this account, together with a note. The note is from the boy that recently entered Alem through the gate of my pier. I didn't get his name at the time, but after reading the posts on this account, he seemed to go by Porter. I'm not very fond of the fact that the kid told all you people about everything that happened, as the existence of our kind should be kept a secret from most of you. Nevertheless, he provided no damning proof, so I guess there is no reason for me to worry. The package contained a camera, and Porter wished for me to tell you people about what is on it. I was hesitant at first, but I agree with the message he wants to pass on to all of you, so I might as well comply. I'll tell you the story, as Porter wanted me to tell you, with the help of a letter explaining his emotions at every minute of footage. I woke up in the same room my grandpa showed in the second clip he recorded. The first thing I did was examine my body, for the aches and pain I entered with were somehow gone. The bruises on my body were still there, but they didn't hurt me. I opened my mouth and tried to feel it, but it was still gone. To be honest, I was happy he didn't take an arm or a leg. That would have made things way more difficult for me. I opened my bag and took out my grandpa's gun. I had loaded it the day before. I squeezed the gun between my belt and waist on my backside. I suppose it's time to go, I thought, and made my way upstairs. The stairs were creaking with every step I took. When I reached the top, almost instantly, a voice called out to me. "Oh my, another visitor," she shouted. It was a blonde-haired girl with purple eyes, looking with excitement as she made a little hop into the air. "Shh, don't yell," I said. Wait. I touched the inside of my mouth again. My tongue was still missing, but I was speaking as I always did. In the midst of my confusion, the girl held my hands and started swinging them. "Oh my god, you're so young," she said. "Let me go," I said, getting pissed off by her hyped up mood. "Yes, I'm visiting, leave me alone please," I said, and made my way outside as she followed me, unfazed by my outburst. The dusty desert village, just as I had seen in the footage. The sky was dark, yet the town was lighted by some kind of lamps that I hadn't seen in my grandpa's recording. I walked up to one of the lamps, but as I got closer, they weren't lamps at all. It was just light floating in the air. I tried to touch it, but I couldn't, as my hand just moved through it. "Hey everyone, we got a new visitor. He doesn't look old at all," the girl yelled throughout the village. I gave an expression of annoyance, but again, she didn't seem to care. Before I knew it, I was surrounded by the people of the village who started to touch my body whilst asking questions again and again without me being able to answer one of them. "Get off of me," I yelled, calming them down a bit. Just as my grandpa's video, the crowd was filled with, at first glance, normal people. The only difference were the odd hair and the eye colors. "Where am I?" I asked, looking at the one that stood closest to me, being the blonde-haired, purple-eyed girl that called upon the crowd. "Ari Village, Midwest Alem," she said. Well, that doesn't help me at all, I thought. What country?" I asked. The girl and I both stared at each other in confusion for a bit, until a hand reached for my wrist and pulled me into the crowd. "Leave him alone," he told the crowd with a grumpy voice as we moved through the horde of people. I took a look behind me and felt my backpack bump into someone, the force of the hit making him fall as people caught him just before he reached the ground. The man pulled me inside a house and shut the door. "Sorry for all the commotion. They get pretty excited when they see a new human, especially such a young one," he said, pulling a chair for me, gesturing me to sit. I put my backpack on the ground and sat down in a less than comfortable position as I felt the tip of my gun press against my bum. "Who are you exactly?" I asked. "I'm what they would call the village elder," he said. But after scanning him for a few seconds, I noticed that he didn't look a year over 25. "Where am I exactly?" I continued. "Far from home. Very far. he said. Can't be that far, I said. The people still speak English. They don't, he said, causing a 10-second silence to erupt. What language do you think they were just talking to me in? And the language we are speaking right now? I said, thinking, do they not realize that this is English? He stood up and started looking for something in the room next to the one I was sitting in. Ah, here it is, he said after a minute of searching, showing me a handheld mirror about the size of my head. Take a look at it, he said. I grabbed the mirror, but my distrust stopped my hand as I was about to look into it. You first, I said. He swiftly grabbed it and took a look at it, after which he turned it to me so fast it made me flinch. Don't worry, it's just a mirror, I swear, he said. Trusting his words, I looked at myself in the mirror, but it really was just a mirror as far as I could tell. Neither we nor you are speaking English right now, he said. Try speaking into the mirror. What do you mean? I said, looking in the mirror. I don't get it. Try again. Focus on your mouth, he said. Are you sure you're not the village's goofball? What? I thought. Are you? I said, looking at my mouth in the mirror. Ah. Oh. E. I. My mouth isn't moving the way it should, I thought, while I kept trying. Oh, I said, but my lips didn't make a round hole. The man started to laugh. What's going on? I asked. As I said, you're not speaking English. Weren't you wondering why you could speak with no tongue? Then, how are we communicating? I asked. You're in Alum now, kid. Everyone here switches to Sheolish, the default language. Sheolish? I said with a confused tone. It's the language every free soul knows from birth. Most humans only get to speak it after their death. You're pretty lucky to experience this. Didn't you ever think how the people would speak in heaven and hell? Well, there will be no English, Chinese, Spanish, or whatever. They'll all be speaking Sheolish. I don't believe in heaven and hell, I said, looking him straight in the eyes as I put the mirror down in front of me. Oh, well, alright. To each their own, I suppose. That's not a really common belief in this area, he said. The door opened with a loud smack. It is where we come from, a voice shouted from behind me. My blood started to boil upon hearing that voice. That goddamn voice. The village elder saw the thirst for blood in my eyes. Upon noticing him looking at me, I collected my fury and turned around saying, Grandpa, it's been so long. Shirtless, hair and chest full of sweaty hair, pants covered in sand and dust, a look of thirst in his eyes, both literally and figuratively. Yeah, it's my grandpa, alright. How you've been, Porty? So, you're filming your own experience in Alien as well, eh? He said, walking up to me. I see the elder has already begun introducing you to this world. Do you two know each other? The elder asked. I nodded as my grandpa explained. This little brat is the child of my daughter, sweet little Basil Porter. You're like oil and water, the elder said. Your grandkid doesn't seem nearly as eccentric as you were. Yeah, this kid is more like his dad, my grandpa said. Hey Porty, got some water for me? I didn't say anything, for I was deep in thought, thinking about my next move. I could just shoot him right now, I thought. But with all these people around me, they might not like that at all, especially since they seem to know my grandpa pretty well. Oi, Porter, my grandpa said, giving me a tap on the head. Look in my bag, there should be a lot. He grabbed my cheek with his hands as I was about to pronounce the O. Your tongue, eh? He said. Well, you won't really have to worry about that here. but it's going to suck back on Earth. At least it's healing well. He started digging through my back, chugging a bottle of water as soon as he found one. My god, that's refreshing. Too bad it's already gone lukewarm. What's this? He asked, showing my non-see-through bottle. Buttermilk, I said with a poker face. Porter, he shouted, grabbing the attention of the elder and every person in the mob that had gathered outside the house. Porter, you're so sweet, he said, almost crying. It's not for you, I said. Don't drink it. His expression dropped tremendously. Give me half. He started to bargain. No, I said. I brought that for myself. You can't have any. I'm sorry. I just got excited for a bit. Really, like buttermilk. Well, if you're planning on saving it, you should keep it cold before it spoils. You're right, I said. Is there some kind of refrigerator? I asked the elder. The elder looked at me with wide eyes and a smile. Refrigerator? He asked. Don't bother, Porty. Different place, different rules, Grandpa said. Where's Yuzdo? He asked the elder. Probably went home. He was working on some project the last time I saw him. Let's go, my grandpa said. With a mob of people, we walked throughout the village, stopping at the corner, the last house before a grand desert field that seemed to go nowhere. Inside the house, my eyes feasted on a mighty being. A dragon, I whispered to myself. Well, it was meant to look like a dragon. In actuality, it was a sculpture of a dragon, made out of the last thing I would imagine someone sculpting in this place. Ice. Do you like it? Someone asked in a raspy voice, wearing a pair of small glasses with his blue hair in a ponytail. Yes, it looks amazing, I said. Rumors say a dragon has been spotted in the far north. How awesome is that? He asked, looking dreamy at his creation. Very, I said, still not used to all the wonders of this new world. Yeah. Spare me the fantasy talk, Yuzdo. Can you free some bottle for us? My grandpa asked, cutting straight to the room's mood. I would appreciate it if you asked me more kindly. Where are the bottles? He asked. My grandpa almost ripped the backpack off my back as he tried to give him the bottles. He walked to the corner of the room where a cloth bag lay, neatly folded. I'm borrowing this if you don't mind, he said. Yuzdo just gave him a look, silent and stern, like an owner gives his dog when it misbehaves. One by one, Yuzdo took the bottles and placed them back again. Until he got to the buttermilk bottle. Make that one extra cold, please, my grandpa said. You're not going to drink it, I said. Yeah. You'll like it more when it's really cold too. Yuzdo held the buttermilk in his hand for a few seconds longer. I didn't really understand what he was doing, but then I noticed. On the outside of the bottle, frost started to appear as the bottle started to make cracking sounds. What the fuck? I whispered, with my jaw almost touching the floor. Feast your eyes, kid, my grandpa said. Is this kid also from Earth? He asked, looking at my grandpa. Yeah, he's my grandkid. Listen, Porty, the people in this world all have some special ability they can use to an extent, like fire and water and such. But it's not only restricted to elements. I even saw someone make glass. How crazy is that? My grandpa said. I'm not going to lie. At that moment, I truly understood why my grandpa wanted to be here so much. What a world it was. Alem. It didn't justify his actions though. And so, my thoughts hadn't changed about him. I want you to meet someone else, my grandpa said, grabbing my back, quickly walking out of the door like a kid who's about to go to the park. Before I could follow, Yuzdo grabbed my shoulder. Be careful, kid, he said, looking in my eyes with a look that was colder than his sculpture. I nodded and left his house. I took some water bottles for myself. I hope you don't mind, my grandpa said, showing me the cloth bag he filled. I didn't respond. "Alright, everyone," he shouted to the crowd. "We're going farther east. I would appreciate it if you stop following us." The crowd shouted a bit and started scattering. "Let's go," he said again. I knew exactly where we were going. I didn't want to meet this someone at all, but I remembered from his recordings that it was deep in the desert, the perfect place for me to shoot him. So, there we were, walking in the scorching desert, just the two of us. "So, how do you like Alum?" he asked. "It's mesmerizing." "Didn't I tell you?" he said, while starting to laugh. "For some reason, those blokes on Earth make it really difficult for us to get here. Some cunts they are, right?" "Huh, yeah," I said. "That bastard gatekeeper even sent someone to kill me," he continued. My eyes twitched as I heard him say that. "Luckily, my boss killed that idiot before he could kill me. Fucking loser reaped what he sowed." "Who is this boss exactly? And what do you do for him?" I asked hesitantly. "I'm happy you asked. My boss is exactly like me. He just takes what he wants," he said, grabbing a bottle out of the cloth bag he was carrying. It was the buttermilk bottle. He opened the cap, and before he took a sip, he stopped and looked at me. "You could have had half, you know? Shouldn't have been such a greedy cunt," he said as he chucked the bottle empty. Some sand had got into it anyway. Where was I? Oh yeah, my boss. Like I said, he takes what he wants, and the thing he wants is flesh. Excuse me?" I said. "He's got some kind of disease or something. He gets really weak if he doesn't cannibalize his own kind. It's pretty weird." I was baffled by his words, but he didn't stop talking for even a second, and just continued. "So yeah, because I'm so popular, I'm really good at leading people to him so he can eat them. That's kind of what I've been doing this whole time to amuse myself. But his hunger is a lot, so every once in a while I have to figure out a way to get him a lot of people to eat. There is this one artist guy who trades like 10 of these people for a single human. He makes artwork out of human or something. It's an awesome deal if you ask me." "You're a monster," I finally managed to say to his face. "That's exactly what your dad said," he said, trembling my mind with the weight of his words clashing down from the high sky. What? I said silently. He started squinting his eyes and scratching his head. "Oh, sorry, I got a headache for a bit." "When you were a kid," he eventually continued, "back when I first started coming to this place, I wanted to snatch a nibble of your body so I could pass the gate. Your dad stopped me before I could. That fucking cunt. So eventually, I made a trap to lead him to Alum with some obvious clues. Once he figured everything out, he came to Alum. Me and my boss captured him and traded him to this artist I mentioned before." I couldn't breathe properly anymore. My eyes started to move from left to right rapidly. We were far enough. I was going to end this swiftly. But before I pulled my gun, I asked him, "How could you do all of this? Don't you feel any remorse for what you did to these people? My father, my little brother, your own daughter, for fuck's sake." "Life has been really unfair to me, kid. The only way I can be happy, the only way I can be free, is if I treat others the same way. I do have to be honest. I didn't like hurting my grandson, nor my daughter. But your dad had it coming." He came closer, laid his hand on my shoulder, and whispered, "He came to Alum to kill me. Just like you." My senses went on overload as I could feel every drop of blood flow through my body. I pushed him off of me and jumped a step back, drawing the sweat-covered revolver and aiming it at his naked chest. He put his hand and stump in the air, but I didn't give a single fuck. "It's time," I thought, and pulled the trigger, shouting, "Goodbye and good riddance." My grandpa exploded into laughter as my hand exploded into bits and pieces, scattering fingers and blood throughout the desert. You idiot. Did you really think I would leave a gun in my room for you to find? I fell on the ground. You, I uttered through the pain. You're naive, Porty. Oh, so naive. But you do have guts. I'll give you that. I'm sure you went through a lot of trouble to get this far. But sadly, I'm the winner, he said as he pulled out a gun from his pocket. I pity you, Porter. So, instead of putting you through the same hell as your dad went, I'll just give you a swift and mostly painless death. That's fair, right? Fuck you, I said, holding what's left of my hand, trying to keep my mind together through the pain and desert heat. Yeah, fuck me. Tell your dad, I said. He stopped as his eyes grew wide. He took a step back and vomited in the dry sand, sweating even more profusely than before. He took a look at me in disbelief, with his stomach acid dripping from his mouth and nose. No way, he said. It was finally my time to laugh. If only you weren't such a piece of shit. If only you didn't take everything you wanted. If only you knew that your grandson hated buttermilk. Then you might have suspected something, I said. But you didn't even want me to drink it. You told me it was for you, damn it, he said loudly. I did, because that was the only way I could guarantee you drinking it. Because I knew that you couldn't help yourself. That you couldn't help yourself taking something that didn't belong to you. What did you do to it? He cried out, vomiting one more time as his hands started to shake. Crushed cherry pits, I said. Cyanide, he whispered, standing up and aiming the gun at me. His arms were shaking, but at this distance, I'm sure it would hit. Well played, Porty, he said. I can accept this end. Ironically, I can live with this, I thought as I looked into the barrel of the gun. At that moment though, something happened we'd both forgotten about. It wasn't the gun, it was the sun, exploding in the sky, casting darkness upon the whole desert in an instant. I wanted to move, but not only had I let my guard down and relaxed my muscles, the shock of the sky made me freeze, making me think I had already died. Then, in the darkness, the shot of a gun casted a brief light as the bullet made its way towards my skull. A moment of silence occurred, after which the moon was birthed, lighting the desert enough for us to see. And both of us saw the monstrous being between us.
I can't let you both die, Mer. I'm sure you understand,
he said. I looked at his knee. He'd taken the bullet from me, so it was spinning on top of his skin, not penetrating even a millimeter into his flesh. Boss, my grandpa said, as he fell down and started shaking on the ground. The poison had spread fastly, for he had gone into a seizure. It had only taken a few more minutes before he died. I did it, I thought. The boss crouched next to me as his silk hair was touching the bloodstained sand.
Porter, right?
He asked. I took a look at his face. He wasn't nearly as scary as in the recordings. His expression was mellow, and his mouth looked normal. His pupils were wide and far from menacing. Yes, I said.
I assume you know what your grandpa did for me. Now that he's dead, I need you to do it,
he said. You want me to lure people to their death, so you may consume them? I asked as I saw my grandpa stop moving in the background, sending the tiniest amounts of dopamine through my brain in this dire moment.
Correct,
he answered. This was the only way I could survive, the only way I could live. But would I even want to live on like that, Of course not. So I had to play it smart. Yes, I'll work for you, I answered.
Are you sure?
He asked me. I was sure about one thing. I was going to get out of this place, alive, and never come back. I'm not going to be this monster slave. Never. Yes, I'm sure. I couldn't finish my words. For he had already seen through me, as his expression changed rapidly.
You're a bad liar,
he said with an ominous tone that echoed throughout the desert, shaking me to my core as his pupils turned tiny and his mouth expanded. My glands excreted ice-cold sweat as he pointed his pale finger at my nose, sending a shock to my body as my heart took its last pump. The night turned darker as the sounds got muted. Oh boy, here I go, I thought. So, finally, I heard as I opened my eyes to a blurry vision. Hey, 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 wakey, wakey, sleepyhead, a man said. I tried to move my arms, but I couldn't. I looked around me and saw that I was strapped to some kind of wooden plank in a colorful room. What is this? Some kind of circus? I thought out loud. No, no, no. Don't be silly. This is my working space. I like vivid colors, you see. They help me think more artistically, the man said. Where am I? I asked. Don't worry about that, boy, he said as he grabbed my cheeks and took a look into my mouth. Missing tongue, missing hand. Not bad. I can make something beautiful out of you, that's for sure, he said happily. What do you mean? I asked. It's hard to explain. Here, let me show you, he said and started rolling something to me, cloaked with a white cloth. I've been told you know this masterpiece of mine. Hey, 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 ladies and gentlemen, take a look. Take a look at the masterful artworks of Jason, here for your eyes only, he started saying as he ran towards the drum set in the back of the room. He started rapidly drumming before he suddenly stopped and took the cloth off what was, I assumed to be, his artwork. The horror, the absolute horror that lay before my eyes. Had I not seen enough yet? In front of me lay a naked human, with every part of his body contorted, spinning in spirals and circles, like some kind of human cinnamon bun. His skin was as pale as snow and as smooth as could be, reflecting the dim light of the room. His head stood in the middle, but his hair covered every bit of his hanging face. Do you like it? He asked with a childish tone. It's disgusting, I said. Ugh, someone doesn't appreciate art. Besides, it's kinda rude talking about him like that. Wouldn't you agree? Why? I asked. He walked towards the middle of his artwork, shoved its hair to the side, and lifted its skull so I could take a look at its face. Don't worry, you'll be joining him very soon, he said. It took me a while to realize, for it had been so long since I had last seen him. But after seeing the birthmark on his chin, a movie of memories played in my mind. Come on, boy, say it with your chest, the man shouted. My eyes filled up as I tried again. I cried, like I cried the moment I was born. The man hurried to a box of tissues and started wiping my tears. Yeah, it's your daddy, stop crying, he said with a sad expression as he dried my face. I collected some saliva and spit it at his face. You bastard, I yelled through the room. Come on now, no need to be mean, he said as he moped. Fuck you, I said silently. I usually don't do anesthetics, but I wanted to make an exception for you. But if you keep this up, I'll change my mind, he said. I didn't say anything. I just watched my teardrops hit the floor as my head hung low, defeated as could be. "Oh, come on, kid," he said. "How about I do you a favor? Is there something you want?" he asked. "I want to go home," I responded. Anything else maybe? I got some candy if you want," he said with a smile. Looking down on the ground, I noticed the camera was still strapped to my chest. I thought I would have some great memories of my trip to Alem. How wrong I turned out to be. "I want you to send this device on my chest to someone," I said. "Of course. Where do you want me to send it?" "Earth," I said. "Geez, kid, the candy is really tasty, you know. You sure you don't want that? Please, do me this one favor." He sighed. "Sure, whatever you want, sweetie. And help me write a note to send as well." "Hell no. One favor, kid, don't push your luck," he said. I already understood what this guy lived for, so I used that to persuade him. It'll be art," I said. His eyes started gleaming. The camera cut to black after this point, but I found another recording on the camera of what happened next. Hey, Mr. Coffee Shop owner. Porter here wanted me to send you this thing he calls a camera. So, here it is. I thought that, before I send it, I should add my creation as well. So, feast your eyes on Magna Corporis Humani. Porter. The man said as he showed me what had become of the kid. He stood naked in a spread eagle position, mounted on a silver pole. His chest was open, and his veins were outside of his body. Like the branches of a tree, they stood there, frozen in the air. His nerves as well, thinly stretched from his cut back like a blunt porcupine. His skin absent, showing every muscle on his body. His face in a permanent smile. Smiling to the camera, eerily. But his eyes, I'm guessing the artist could do nothing to change his eyes. Because, although open, they looked down on the ground, portraying pure sadness. He had seen many things at such a young age, and met a fate as unfair and cruel as they come. His eyes cried out a single word. Why? In the middle of his chest, his heart, still beating. Although horrifying, heinous and outright inhumane, I would be lying if it wasn't absolutely beautiful. God has blessed the humans with a body that shines its perfection through every inch of it. Let this be a lesson to all of you. There is a saying that goes, before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. Although a cliché, there are a few words wiser. If your journey includes a trip to Alem though, remember that merely dying could be a luxury you might not be granted. Stay where you were made to stay. Anywhere but Alem. Listen to your conscience and those wiser than you. For Porter was warned many times, but was too stubborn to heed, blinded by his own desires. From the bottom of my heart, I wish that you make the right choices this decennium and for the rest of your life. Porter was no special person. In essence, he was just like you. We all have our troubles, some bigger than others, and our happiness depends on our way of dealing with them. So, act wisely and help those around you who struggle to an extent. They can't deal without you. But above else, avoid Alem and those that come from there. For there is a reason why you humans dubbed us demons. God, help us. They're still out there. Those were the last words in my grandfather's diary, which was found open on the table, at which he shot himself in 2019. I was the one who found his body, a hole blasted through his head with his old army pistol. I can still see the scene to this day. Blood dripping down the sides of the desk, the metallic scent in the air. I don't think it'll ever leave me. But that's not why I'm writing this. After I had grieved, that sentence began filling me with a morbid curiosity. Who, what, was out there? My grandfather had always been a quiet man who kept to himself and spoke little about his past. He had served in the army of the USSR in his youth, and I always assumed he kept silent about it out of guilt in being part of one of the cruelest regimes in the history of the world. After translating and reading his diary, I know better. That's what I'm here to tell you about. I know what he was keeping quiet about, and why he took his life in 2019. It's all in the diary he kept during his time in the army. The first few months he writes about are mundane, mostly detailing his training and first deployment. What is clear from these parts is that he was a patriotic man who had no trouble following orders, a soldier who kept his mouth shut and his head down. That's probably what got him where he ended up. 6 months after his training, he was transferred to a base in the Ural Mountains he had never heard of. And that's where things start to get strange. This is his story. September 2nd, 1958. This place is like no base I have ever been stationed at. It's cut into the side of the mountains themselves, almost wholly concealed, and practically undetectable from the outside. We're not allowed any communication with the rest of the world. The base is built in 5 descending levels, going down to the roots of the mountain. Each level is accessed by a single tunnel, with airlocks and security stations connecting them. Without authorization, you cannot leave the level you are currently in. Our commander is a hard man named Sergei Yauntov. He talks little and is ruthless in disciplining his soldiers. I have only seen him once on my arrival here. He gave us our standing orders, which must be obeyed at all times. These orders are what gave me pause about this whole situation. They seem ludicrous, but several men have already been punished for not keeping them in mind. If any staff members acts disoriented or follows you to a secluded part of the base, sound the alarm immediately. You are authorized to use lethal force if they do not desist. If you find yourself in a place you do not remember entering, sound the alarm immediately and lie face down on the floor with your hands on your head. But the strangest order is the last. If you are stationed at level 5 and the screaming stops, sound the alarm immediately. You are authorized to use lethal force until relieved. I don't know what to think of this. I wish to serve my country, but these orders fill me with a strange dread I've never felt before. September 5th, 1958. Today, I befriended another soldier stationed here. His name is Yuri Ivanovich, a private like me. He seems talkative and friendly, an unusual trait among the soldiers stationed here. And he was eager to talk once I told him I was new at the base. We were discussing the strangeness of the place and the secrecy surrounding it when I summoned the courage to ask him about what our purpose here was. Yuri, I began carefully. Do you know anything about what this place is supposed to be? What is level 5? And what is that screaming the orders mention? Yuri's smile faded. He leaned in closer to me. It's best you don't ask about level 5, Mikhail, he said under his breath. Nothing good ever comes of talking about that place. Keep your head down, and you might be lucky enough never to go down there. My skin crawled. Yuri was usually a quite amiable man, but now he was deadly serious. What's level 5 though? Have you ever been sent down there?
I haven't, no, he answered. Thank God, but I know someone who has.
What happened to him? I asked, realizing I too was instinctively whispering.
He came back, but he was never the same, Yuri answered sadly. He's been changed ever since. Even the fact he came back is not common. Many soldiers sent to level 5 never return. Did he ever tell you about what he saw there? Only one thing. 5 years. He told me. They have been screaming in the caves for 5 years. Yuri would tell me no more and left me at my post with more questions than answers. September 11th, 1958. Yesterday we were sent on patrol in the area surrounding the base. The surrounding mountains are an icy wasteland, and I was freezing within minutes of setting foot outside. Yuri was in our unit. He had regained his usual happy demeanor since our conversation, and seemed almost untroubled by the biting cold. Our orders were simple. If we met anyone, we were to make sure they came nowhere near the mountain. We were to remain hidden, if possible. But if we found any hikers going in the direction of our base, we were authorized to use any necessary measures to dissuade them. I hoped it wouldn't come to that. We only came across a single group of travelers, and thankfully they were going in a direction which would take them away from our base. We departed shortly after making sure they weren't a threat. Whatever it is we are guarding here, it is so dangerous that even the lives of Soviet citizens are a worthy price to pay for keeping it secret. September 14th, 1958. Today, Yuri introduced me to the soldier who had been to level 5. It was a complete accident that all three of us were stationed at the same guard post. Yuri, always talkative, took no time in starting a conversation to make the hours go by faster. The soldier's name is Ivan. He was a thin man with nervous eyes that flicked from side to side constantly. He talks in an anxious whisper. Yuri wasn't lying. Whatever Ivan saw at level 5, it has left him changed forever. Yuri wouldn't let me talk with him about his time there, but I didn't even want to once I saw the man's state of mind. It would be cruel to remind him of something so obviously traumatizing. But even so, I left the meeting more anxious about this place than before. Ivan wouldn't stop whispering to himself. It was quiet, under his breath, but I made one sentence out clearly enough. 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. It's been inside them, in the dark, for 5 years. The next few months go by with not much interesting happening. My grandfather spends most of his time either out on patrol in the surrounding areas or on guard duty in various parts of the base. He is never sent down to level 5 and doesn't inquire more about it. The next interesting entry is in mid-December. December 15th, 1958. I will never forget this day. We were on guard duty, checking the staff going from level 4 to level 3. It had been a long shift, 5 hours so far, with 3 more to go. It was nearing midnight when things started going to shit. It was a quiet moment, and the corridor was empty, except for me and Yuri, when the man appeared. He was a researcher, not a soldier, balding with a pair of spectacles and a round red face. He was strangely hunched over, dragging his feet and looking at the floor. I figured he was simply tired after a long shift. "Papers, please, comrade," I asked him as he came up to my post. He looked up at me, and I started back. His eyes were red and bloodshot, darting from side to side, just like Ivan's. He mumbled something under his breath and made to walk past me.
I stepped into his path. He hadn't given me any identification, and I couldn't let him pass me by. "Comrade, I need to see your authorization before you can leave level 4. The man was looking at the ground again. Now he was closer to me. I could see him shivering. He was mumbling something under his breath. I leaned closer in to hear him. "They can't get out. They can't get out. We left them there for 5 years. 5 years." I backed away slightly, raising my firearm. Yuri could see something was wrong and aimed his gun at the man's head. "Comrade," he said loud and slow, "please give us your authorization." The man looked at him, wide-eyed. "Have you been to level 5, soldier?" he asked in a hoarse whisper. Have you heard the trapped men scream?" "I need you to lie down right now," I said, panic rising in me. No amount of military training could prepare me for one of our own to behave like this. Yuri circled around, moving behind the man. The researcher didn't seem to notice, his attention totally fixed on me. He stumbled forwards, and I aimed my gun in nerveless fingers. "They can never get out," he said, his voice trembling. "If any men are trapped in level 5, we will get them out," I said, trying to sound soothing and calm, even as my heart hammered in my chest. The men," the researcher mumbled. Then he laughed. No. The men are trapped. But it's not them that can never be freed. They're not alone in the caves." He looked me dead in the eyes. "It's the things in them that can never escape." He lunged forward, making to run past me. A gunshot rang through the corridor. The researcher crumbled to the floor, blood leaking from his chest. Commander Sergei Yahuntov stood behind Yuri, a smoking pistol in his hand. His face was twisted and barely contained fury. I snapped to attention, Yuri quickly following suit. "What is your first standing order, Private?" he asked, walking face to face with us and looking at me. "To sound the alarm if any staff members appear disoriented or follows us, sir. We are allowed to use lethal force if they do not comply with our command, sir." "And did this man comply, Private?" "He did not, sir." "Then why did you not sound the alarm? Why was this man still alive when I found you?" "You forget your orders, and that can't be tolerated in this base. There is a punishment for disobedience, Private." He smiled cruelly. "You will both report to level 5 tomorrow at noon." My blood ran cold. Yuri stepped up to Sergei. "Permission to speak, sir." "Granted." "The blame is mine, sir. I told Private Mikhail Sidorov to hold fire. I have overstepped my rank and disobeyed standing orders." I opened my mouth in shock. Yuri was lying. He was protecting my skin at his own risk. He shot me a quick glance and shook his head almost imperceptibly. I shut my mouth. "The situation was your fault then?" Sergei asked him slowly. "Yes, sir." "Then you will report to level 5 tomorrow, alone. Now continue in your task. A cleanup team will arrive shortly to dispose of this body." With that, he walked off. I turned to Yuri once Sergei was out of earshot. "Are you mad? I'm to blame too. You can't take the fall for this. You know what level 5 did to Ivan and to that researcher. You can't possibly keep calm, Mikhail." Yuri cut me off. I could tell he was trying to remain casual and managing so with great difficulty. "There's no reason for two of us to go down there if we can avoid it. I'll be fine. Don't worry. It can't be as bad as everyone would have you believe." He smiled wryly. "Besides, this way I can tell you about what's down there when I get back." The rest of our guard shift was carried out in silence. Yuri then departed to his bunk to catch some sleep before he has to report to level 5. But I cannot sleep. I can't stop thinking what could be waiting down there, and what my friend might come back like, if he comes back at all. December 16th, 1958. Yuri has not yet returned from level 5. It's almost midnight, and I still haven't seen any sign of him. December 17th, 1958. Still no sign of Yuri. I can't sleep. I stay awake for hours wondering if he's alright. December 19th, 1958. Yuri still hasn't come back. What is happening down there? December 20th, 1958. Today, I couldn't take it anymore. When my guard duty ended this evening, I managed to catch Commander Yauntov while he was on his way to the officers' quarters. "Permission to speak, sir." My voice was hoarse with trepidation of this conversation. He looked at me, a sort of apathetic curiosity coming over his face. He glanced down at my name tag. "Granted, Private Sidorov." "Sir, 5 days ago, my friend, Private Yuri Ivanovich, was sent to level 5. He hasn't come back since then. I am worried about him." Sergei looked in my eyes, his face unreadable. "And what do you wish from me, Private?" "I want to know whether Yuri is alive, sir. Whether he is alright," I said. My mouth was dry and my throat clenched as Sergei looked at me, an all too familiar anger building behind his eyes. "You are aware that discussing our work here is not recommended, aren't you, Private?" I had gone too far to back out now. I could only press on. "Yes, sir, I am." "Then listen well to me, Mikhail Sidorov. Whether your friend is or isn't alive is of no concern to me or our task here. Our only job is to keep level 5 secure. That is what we are here to do, and I will gladly send every man in this base to their death if it means that task is carried out." Sergei's voice was getting louder and louder until he was shouting at the top of his lungs, spittle flying into my face. Completely unknowingly, I had touched on a subject which I should have never opened with him. "Sir, I began, trying to apologize. Sergei wouldn't have it. "What's down there can never come to the light of day. Do you understand? If your friend shot himself after what he heard there, it is a low price to pay. Never forget that." With that, he turned and stormed off. I might have made a huge mistake today. December 21st, 1958. If I never write again in this diary, know I have either killed myself or am too changed to ever write my memories down again. This morning, we received our orders for the day, as usual. Guard duty, maintenance or patrol, that's all I've ever done here. Not today though. The officer read down the list, reciting the names and duties for the first part of the day. I was always at the end of the list and only started paying attention towards the end of his monologue. Turgenev, guard duty, level 4, 0800. Kuznetsov, guard duty, level 4, 0800. Chernyshevsky, patrol, 1000. He suddenly stopped, just before my name. His eyes tightened as he squinted down on his list, as if surprised by what he read there. Then he spoke, in a strangled voice. "Mikhail Sidorov. Report to level 5. The entry from December 21st is followed by several empty pages. This is what follows. Unknown date, 1958. If you find this, please get off the mountain. You may not make it, but if you do, take this diary and bring it to the Army Command, to the KGB, To anyone that will listen. They need to know what happened here. My heart sank when I heard the order consigning me to level 5. It took a second to truly hit me, the reality slowly settling in my mind. Sergey, it had to be him. He had remembered my inquiry into Yuri's fate and had made sure, either from cruelty or from some twisted sense of justice, that I would share my friend's fate, whatever it was. But there was nothing I could do now. I left for level 5 immediately. The officer on guard duty at the tunnel from level 4 looked at my printed orders and smiled sadly. Wait a while in the side room, son. I have to double check all level 5 postings with command. I'll just be a second. He waved faintly to a small unlit side room before walking over to a telephone set in the wall and dialing a number. I walked over into the side chamber, resignedly. The room was dark, only lit by a thin sliver of light coming from the corridor outside and filled with dank air. There was another person waiting inside, standing silently in the corner. As I approached, I could slowly make out more features. The man seemed familiar, even in the dark. It looked like Yuri. Is that you? I asked incredulously. What are you doing here? Where have you been? Miguel? Yuri asked. I stared at my friend in shock. He had changed horribly in the few short days we had been parted. Where before he was a healthy, well-built man with an undying smile on his face, he was now hollow and frowning. Have you been discharged from level 5? You've been... I didn't get another word out. Yuri darted forward, slamming into me, one forearm pinning my neck to the wall. He thrust his face right in front of mine. Where are you going, Miguel? He hissed in a sharp whisper. Have you been posted to level 5? Yes! Sergey sent me here as a punishment for asking about you. Yuri swore beneath his breath. Fuck. Listen to me, Miguel. Don't listen to the screaming. Whatever you do, don't listen to it. If you can't take it anymore, do whatever you have to. Just get out of there. Fake an illness, insult the officer, and get taken to the prison wing. Whatever you need, just get out of there. There was a cough from the door. The officer stood there, uncertain as to what was happening. You have been cleared for level 5, Private Sidorov, he began tentatively. Yuri backed away from me. Remember, Miguel. Remember what I told you. Then he swept out of the room and out of sight. Everything all right, Private? The officer asked. Something the matter? No, sir, I answered finally, Yuri's cryptic warning still swirling through my head. Just talking with my friend. I walked past him and to the thick iron door separating me from level 5. It slid open slowly, revealing the room I was to guard until I was relieved. And the screaming hit me. I couldn't pay attention to anything but that sound. It was all-encompassing, a cacophony of agony, the sound of several men tortured beyond the limits of flesh and bone. I was no stranger to the sounds of pain after my time in the army, but none of it could compare to this. My eyes snapped to the source of the sound involuntarily. It was coming from the back of the massive room I had entered. The wall was solid rock, carved from the mountain itself. A small opening yawned dark at its base, seemingly a cave entrance that was blocked off after several meters by a pile of rubble and stone. A rock fall had sealed the cave shut. My head swam, and I leaned on a wall for support. I couldn't think, couldn't focus on anything but the echoing sound of men in horrible, never-ending pain. I was drowning in a dark pool inside my mind, with nothing to grab onto. Don't listen to the screaming. Yuri's word pulled me back into reality. I steeled myself. The screaming was still there, gnawing at my sanity. but I set myself against it. I would not fall to it. A man in a lab coat made to walk past me. I stepped in his path. He was a thin man with a bald head and the stubble of several days on his chin. "Comrade, what is that thing?" I asked him, pointing to the cave entrance. "Where does it lead?" He looked at me in confusion. "Do you not know? Didn't anyone tell you?" "This is my first time on level 5. I don't know anything about this place. Please, I need to know." The researcher looked around, as if checking if no one was watching us. Then he stepped in close to me. "There used to be a huge cave system beneath this mountain," he said, his voice low. "The local tribe would report strange noises coming out of it, and every now and then people would disappear while on the mountain. So we sent a small unit of 5 to check the tunnels." "What happened to them?" "Only one of them ever made it out. They found him 3 days later, wandering the wastes outside. He was beyond help, muttering to himself about the dark, blood, and things underneath his skin. When another unit went to find his comrades, they got all the way down here and found the cave-in. It seems the man blew a grenade while escaping and caused a rock fall that sealed the end of the caverns off." "And the men inside?" "The men inside have been screaming ever since this place was found. Not a second of silence. In 5 years." The man stepped away from me and hurried away, obviously not wishing to continue talking. I swallowed nervously, my mouth suddenly dry and my throat tight. "So glad you could join us today, Private," came a voice from next to me. I turned and came face to face with Commander Sergei Yavantov. The man was smiling slightly, but that unceasing anger was still simmering in his eyes. "Sir, yes sir," I saluted, clenching my jaw in frustration. "Awaiting orders, sir." Sergei smiled. "There is not much to do for soldiers here, Private. Except wait and remain vigilant. You will stand guard at that post until you are relieved." He pointed at a small niche set in one of the walls of the room, barely large enough for a man to stand in it. "Sir, yes sir," I answered, grating my teeth. I walked over to my post and stood to attention in it. The screaming was still hammering at my ears and tearing at my mind. There were no words to it, and no halt, not even for those screaming to take a breath. There was no way it could have been so loud through the rocks, cutting us off from the men. If it even was men. But somehow, it was drowning out everything else. I looked around the room to try and preoccupy myself with something else. It was a massive hallway, dozens of meters long and almost as many deep. There were many niches similar to mine around the walls, some occupied by dead-eyed soldiers, many others empty. The center of the room was filled with desks and elaborate equipment manned by researchers and scientists. I saw that almost all of them were wearing heavy hearing protection, drowning out the all-encompassing cacophony. They were working with complicated-looking electronic gear, the intent of which I couldn't begin to fathom. Right in front of the sealed cave entrance was a massive wheeled cannon. It was loaded and ready to fire, aiming straight at the pile of rubble separating us from whatever was inside there. Manning it were 5 soldiers in uniforms I didn't recognize, all with heavy ear protection. We were expendable. They were not. As my interest in the surroundings waned, the screaming returned, stronger than before. I couldn't think of anything but it. And the longer I listened, the more I became certain there was something more than human beneath it. An undertone no man's throat could ever utter. Whatever was in there, it wasn't altogether human. Time began to lose all meaning. How long was I standing there? Minutes? Hours? Days? I don't know. There was nothing to hold on to. Nothing to compare the passage of time to. Only the crying of the trapped men. I would regain consciousness, confused as to what was happening and where I was. Only the walls of my post kept me upright as I leaned heavily on them. When I closed my eyes, I could still see the terrible cave and the barrier of rock between me and whatever was in there. I don't know how long I was on guard before Yuri's words pierced the veil on my thoughts. If you can't take it anymore, do whatever you have to. Just get out of there. I wished to serve my country. I would gladly have laid down my life for it. But this was something I could not do. I had to get out of this room before I lost my mind. Slowly, almost theatrically, I keeled over and landed face down on the floor. I shut my eyes and went limp. "Medic!" Someone yelled, barely audible over the screams. The thud of boots hammered the floor as several men ran over to me and pushed me onto my back. I kept my eyes shut, feigning unconsciousness. "We need to get him to the medical wing," came a voice I didn't recognize from somewhere above me. "He may go into shock. Not everyone can handle this for too long." I felt arms grab me and pull me up. I was being dragged somewhere. I hoped it was towards the exit from level 5. The movement stopped suddenly. "No!" The voice was Sergei Yauntov's. It came from in front, from between me and the exit. Shit. "Sir, this man is unconscious. This place might have been too much for him. We need to get him to a—" "No, comrade. This man is here as a disciplinary measure, and here he will stay till he awakens. Take him to the prison room and put him in a cell. He will be safe there till he awakens. Send for a medic to check on him if you wish." "But sir, that is an order, Private." "Understood, sir." I was being dragged again, but in a different direction. Panic rose within me. Not only would I remain on level 5, but I would be trapped in a prison cell at the mercy of Commander Yauntov and his twisted sense of justice. But if I awoke, he might guess I was only acting. If service on level 5 was his punishment for asking about Yuri, I didn't want to find out what the price for this would be. I was laid down on a cold stone slab. An iron door slammed somewhere nearby. Then there was silence, broken only by the wailing of level 5. Time began to slip past me again. Minutes blended into hours. There was only the sound from outside. Suddenly, I was pulled back into reality. It took me a second to realize what had broken me out of my horrifying trance. Silence. Absolute silence. The screaming had stopped. There was a second of nothingness as the world drew its breath. Klaxons and sirens wailed outside the door of my cell. The thump of boots echoed through the halls as soldiers took up positions. I leapt up, running over to the solid metal door of my room, beating on it with my fists. "Let me out! Let me out, damn you all!" There was no answer. Someone screamed in level 5. The same inhumane screech that had before come from within the cave. Except now, it was closer, more immediate, in the room outside. There was a gunshot, then another, and then a whole salvo. The ground shook as the massive cannon I had seen discharged a single time. The screaming grew in volume as more men joined in, but never more than a handful. One cry would die down in a wet gurgle, only for another to take its place. I backed away from the door and fell to the ground, hands clenched on my ears. Something heavy hit the door. A red puddle began spreading from beneath it. There was a crash of steel from outside. The agonized wail of heavy doors being ripped off their axes. The screaming grew distant, spreading upward through the facility. And silence fell on level 5. I have been here since then. I cannot open the cell door from inside. As far as I can tell, days have passed. Thirst and hunger torment me, but I have to hold on, in case I am ever rescued. I have to warn someone. I have to warn them about what happened on level 5. December 29th, 1958. I was trapped in my cell for 5 days. Hunger and cold took their toll on me. I would have died of dehydration, but there was a small, filthy toilet in the corner of my room. After a day, my thirst overcame my revulsion, and I drank from it greedily. The water only lasted 2 days, and thirst quickly added itself to my list of tormentors. The lights went out after several hours, as whatever happened to the base above destroyed the generators, plunging me into darkness. I was almost relieved, unable to see the dried red stain around the door. I was starving and freezing, but my real enemy was my own mind. I could still hear the carnage outside, echoing in my mind. The inhumane screaming, the desperate gunfire, the sounds of a whole military base unable to stop whatever had come out of that cave. When I heard the sound in the corridor outside, I thought I had to be hallucinating. I haven't heard anything but my own voice for days. I rolled over on the floor and ignored it. But then it came again. Footsteps, slow, wary, echoing down the abandoned hall. They were getting closer, heading right for my cell. I leapt to my feet, swaying as my head swam. There was nothing in my cell I could use as a weapon. I bared my fists, turning in the dark to where I thought the door was. Something grabbed hold of the heavy iron bar locking it, and it scraped loudly as it was drawn up. The door crashed open. A blinding light shone into my eyes. I cringed backwards, my illusions of putting up a fight gone in a rush of terror. I shrank backwards, raising my arms to protect my eyes. "Mikael, stay calm, it's me." It was Yuri's voice. The light swung downwards as I squinted at its source. Yuri stood in the cell door, one hand gripping a battery-powered light, the other holding a pistol. "Yuri, what are you doing here? I thought everyone was dead." I slurred. "Not everyone. I'm sorry it took so long, Mikael. I didn't know you were in the cell. I thought you died like almost everyone else. Sergey the bastard only told us yesterday that you were locked up when it happened." "Water," I mumbled, the edges of my vision darkening. I fell to one knee. Yuri rushed over, pulling a canteen from his belt. "Here, drink. There's more up above." I grabbed the canteen and tore it open, wolfing down the water inside. I wanted to thank Yuri, to ask him 1,000 questions, but my body didn't allow it. Darkness folded in around me, and I felt myself falling. That was 2 days ago. When I awoke, I found myself in a mess hall on level 1. The survivors of whatever happened on level 5, some 50 soldiers in total, have holed up here. We have fires, food, and water. When I recovered, I immediately asked Yuri about what had happened to the base. "We don't even know," he answered, a flash of fear crossing his face. One moment, everything was normal. The next, people were screaming, Mikael. Then they dropped, blood at the mouth, and someone else would start. We tried killing whoever it took, but it would always jump to someone else. What? How is that possible? I don't know, Mikael. It shouldn't be. And yet, out of the 500 men on this base, there's only 50 alive now. And we only survived because we hit. Whatever took those men, it seems that, if it can see you, you're safe. Or at least, safer. What happened when everyone inside was dead? Yuri sighed. The last 4 men to be taken by them. They never stopped screaming. They ran into the wastes outside. We haven't seen them since. We sat in silence for a while. What happened to Sergei? I asked, finally. Yuri smiled, a flash of his old attitude warming his face for a second. He has been relieved of command, you could say. When it was all over, he appeared unharmed and tried to make us follow the screaming men out in the dark. We wouldn't have it. He shot old Lebedev before we could restrain him. Where is he now? In the other mess hall on this level. He hasn't answered any questions about what the hell happened and stays silent most of the time. Come along, I'll take you to him. We picked our way through the men lying and sitting around our makeshift shelter. Everyone was quiet. The loudest voice was a whisper. Even though these men had survived the horrors from level 5, something had died within them. Sergei lay in the corner of the second mess hall, his hands and legs bound. When we approached, he smiled mirthlessly. Private Sidorov, it seems Yuri's hope of rescuing you was not as foolish as I thought. You're lucky to be alive. As are you, Commander, I retorted, barely keeping my anger at bay. Care to tell us what the hell is happening? Those are state secrets, Private. I can't tell you anything. Yuri snorted. You've already failed the Union, Sergei. Whatever we were here to guard, it escaped. Best you tell us what it was, and maybe we can salvage something from the situation. The former commander looked at Yuri dolefully. I did what was in my power to guarantee the safety of this facility. There was nothing more I could have done. Yuri swore savagely and spat at the ground at Sergei's feet before turning around and stalking off. I followed after him. What's our next move, Yuri? I asked once I caught up to him. We have to do something. We have to get to Army Command to warn them. The whole area needs to get locked down as soon as possible. Come outside with me, Mikhail. I followed my friend, confused as to what he intended by this. As we walked through the abandoned base and out into the freezing night, I realized what he wished for me to witness. From somewhere out in the dark, the faint sound of men screaming carried to my ears. They're still out there, Mikhail. Somewhere. We've sent out patrols trying to find them. They either return with no information, or they don't return at all. So, what does that mean for us? We don't know where they are. We don't have the gear to take the trek to reach civilization. For all purposes, we're trapped here. January 2nd, 1959. We have remained camped in the remainder of level 1. Sergei still hasn't talked. 3 men didn't return from patrol today. January 7th, 1959. 5 more men have gone missing on patrol since my last entry. Food and water are still in supply, but we're running out of cigarettes. January 12th, 1959. 7 more men are dead. Sergei remains silent. There has been talk among the survivors of executing him. January 19th, 1959. There is little reason for me to continue this diary, other than keeping track of our losses. 12 more men have been lost to the Screaming Ones. Sergei hasn't spoken in 3 days. No more cigarettes. January 25th, 1959. Today, the screaming came closer to our base than ever before. all the way to the ruined entry gate. We lay low, gripping rifles in terror, mumbling prayers and curses. Thank God, it passed after half an hour, moving somewhere down the mountain. 4 men went to follow it, swearing to kill the screaming man from a range. They haven't returned. January 28th, 1959. Today, Sergey finally talked. We haven't fed him in days and only gave him small amounts of water. Finally, he cracked and agreed to talk to us. He never pleaded, never begged. He is still Sergey, angry, prideful, utilitarian. But now we know a bit about what we're dealing with here. We never opened the cave, not once in 5 years. He told us through parched lips. The best scanning equipment in all of the Union was used to give us some idea what was happening on the other side of the rockfall. Our best guess was the 4 trapped men were just standing there for 5 years, standing there, screaming. And no one ever tried to open the cave? A soldier growled. Would you have? We didn't know what was in there. What was in those soldiers? We still don't, even now. And how did they get outside? I demanded. The cave is still sealed. How could they escape? Your guess is as good as mine, Private Sidorov. Sergey smiled, his head lolling. Maybe they were gathering strength. Maybe they were biding their time. Maybe, given 5 years of doing nothing, they could pass through the rock with the same ease they passed through flesh. Whatever happened to the man in this base, it only happened to those in a direct line of sight from the screaming ones, said Yuri. Whatever way it moved outside the cave, it doesn't seem it can do it again. That's how we all survived after all. Sergey grinned at Yuri. By hiding like cowards. Yuri lashed out, fast as a snake. Sergey's head snapped back and blood spouted from his pursed lip. Despite everything, he kept on grinning. And what do you plan to do now, Private Ivanovich? Our only chance was to follow and kill those things. And instead, you turned on me. The soldiers around him started to disperse with mutters of disgust. It was clear we would get no more from our former commander. Grudgingly, I gave him a canteen of water. It seems we will all die here. Either the screaming ones find us, or we die out there in the snow, one by one. If anyone finds this diary, God be with you, for he has abandoned us. January 30th, 1959. 5 more men down. We are now only 14. Yuri, thankfully, among them. Sergey still lives and has been moved to our mess hall to be better guarded. February 1st, 1959. May God have mercy on my soul. Today's events will haunt me till the day I die. It was approaching nightfall when a patrol, the last 2 men brave enough to volunteer to search the mountain, ran into our shelter. The sentries leapt up, rifles raised, expecting trouble. There's people! People on the mountain! One of the scouts yelled. I sprang to my feet and ran over to them. Yuri close behind. Who? Where? I demanded. On the slope. We counted 9. They're setting up camp as we speak. The remaining soldiers gathered around the patrol. Are they military? Yuri asked. Could they have radios? Can we contact command? No, they're civilians. Hiking expedition, it seems. The patrolman answered. A dejected quiet fell on the room. Our hopes, so quickly raised, were crushed just as fast. A single voice broke the silence. Sergey's. Bait. We looked over at him, confused. "What are you talking about, you son of a bitch?" asked one of the survivors. "What do you mean bait?" "Those people on the mountain. The things in the screaming men don't know we're here, and so they haven't come for us. But they will see those hikers. They will come for them, and that gives us an advantage. We know what they're going to do." Yuri walked over to the bound commander. "What are you proposing? Even if they get to the hikers, we can't kill them without exposing ourselves." "You're sitting on a military base worth of weapons and explosives, Ivanovich. Outside, there's a mountain covered in snow. We get out there, we prime the slope with explosives. We wait and hide. When the things come for the hikers, we wait till they're screaming, and then we drop the slope on them. If the avalanche doesn't kill them, we will finish them off before they know what hit them." Yuri was quiet for a second. "Suppose we did all this," he said at last. "Suppose we manage to cause an avalanche, but the things survive. How do we know we'll be able to kill them? We tried and failed when they broke free. It's either this, or you stay here and die slowly, one by one. Your choice." There was a second of silence. Then Yuri nodded. "If we are to go down, we go down fighting." Around him, the survivors were rising to their feet and muttering in agreement. A fire in their eyes that had been extinguished for a month had been rekindled. They had intent. They had hope. "One more thing," added Sergei, lifting his bound hands. "Free me." Yuri hesitated for a second. Then he stepped forward, drew his knife, and cut Sergei's bonds. Everything happened quickly after that. We gathered explosives from the armory, grenades, and demolition charges, and stalked out into the night. The hikers had pitched their tent under the mountain. A dull glow came from inside, the light of a lamp illuminating it from within. The scream still came, faint on the air. Maybe the campers didn't hear them. Maybe they mistook them for the howling of the wind. Whatever it was, they stayed inside their tent. Our small group crept along the mountain above, anxious in the dark. Every movement in the black night was full of terror. It took us only a few minutes to plant the explosives on the slopes above the tent. Having prepared our trap, we stalked away, taking cover in a tree line about a kilometer away from the camp. And then we waited. For several hours, we sat in the cold, freezing and terrified. Sergei held the detonator, having assumed command by force of his expertise and some residual authority. It seemed like an eternity of waiting, but then it finally came. The moment we had been dreading. The screams on the wind got closer and louder, approaching the tent. We saw the things coming. 4 specks of black on the white snow, running down the mountain towards the hikers. There was a commotion in the tent, shadows moving inside in panic. As one, the voices on the wind went silent. The running bodies fell limp in the snow. And 4 fresh screams arose from the camp. We froze. We had been awaiting this moment anxiously for hours. But when it came at last, we still hesitated. "Blow the slope! Do it, Sergei!" yelled Yuri, breaking our horrified trance. Our commander smiled cruelly and hit the detonator. There was a loud crack and a boom, like thunder in the distance. A flash of flame illuminated the slope, casting it in sharp-cut shadow and light. I covered my ears. There was a rumble that echoed across the mountain. For a second, the world held still. Then, the whole slope above the tent began shifting, the vibrations setting off an unstoppable chain of motion. Tons of snow were moving, sliding down with an unsettling groaning sound. The mass gained speed and struck the tent with horrible force. Silence fell on the mountain. Slowly, we picked ourselves up. The tension was palpable. We waited with bated breath. Did it work? I said finally, my voice hoarse. No one answered for a second, listening intently. Then Yuri whispered an answer. I think it did, he said. We should go check. A horrified scream, louder than any before, cut through the night. My heart sank, a chill running down my spine. Yuri swore, and Sergei drew his pistol. Looks like we're not done here yet, soldiers. Get ready. The tent bulged and then split as someone tore it open from the inside. Figures streamed out, running towards our tree line. They weren't screaming. They weren't taken. But my heart sank as the last 4 shapes emerged from the ruined shelter. 4 loud screams sounded across the mountainside once again. The things staggered through the snow, limbs uncoordinated, as if whatever force gave the body's movement and strength was not used to these new hosts. But they were moving fast, following the fleeing hikers and heading straight for us. Prepare to fire, Sergei commanded, his voice cold as iron. If it moves, kill it. My surviving comrades kneeled in the snow, rifles trained on the incoming figures. With the crack of gunfire, we fired our first volley. We aimed with all the skill we had, trying desperately to make sure the hikers who hadn't yet been taken wouldn't die in our crossfire. One of the screaming ones went down, and I cheered, only to curse in fear as his cry of insane pain was raised up by another of the fleeing hikers. Were these things invincible? Would death only make them leap to a fresh target? Another volley set my ears ringing, and 2 more bodies fell to the ground. Their screams were silenced only for a second before a pair of the fleeing hikers stumbled, twitched, and took up the agonized cry. Panic spread through our group like wildfire. Discipline collapsed. The screaming men were getting closer, our gunfire doing nothing to stop their advance. First 1, then 2 soldiers turned and fled into the forest. Then they were all running, terror seizing our minds in a horrible grip. We ran through the midnight forest, the screams of the following things echoing around us. I cried as the ground below me suddenly fell away and I tumbled down a small slope. A stream ran at its bottom and I fell straight into it, ice-cold tendrils immediately spreading through my body. My comrades ran after me, some falling as I had, some keeping their footing. Sergei stood beside me and lifted me up. What do we do? I said desperately, panic threatening to overwhelm me again. Sergei didn't have time to answer. Over the lip of the slope we had fallen down, 4 shapes appeared. Their screams were deafening. The next moments are only a blur in my memory. I remember desperate gunfire as the 4 slavering figures ran among us, their screaming mixing with our own cries of fear and confusion. The corruption spread quickly. Men falling dead, others taking up their inhumane shout. One memory is clear as glass in my mind. A screaming figure, a soldier I had known as Igor Pashenko, staggered towards me, his mouth open in a disfiguring grimace. I stumbled backwards, tripping on a prone body and falling to the ground. I would have died. I should have died. But then Sergei jumped in front of me. He never panicked. He may have been cruel, a bastard and a murderer, but he never panicked. As Pashenko screamed at him, Sergei aimed his pistol and began firing. His aim was flawless. 1 bullet, 2, 3, almost a whole magazine dumped into Pashenko's chest. All but 1 shot. As the soldier fell to the ground and whatever force had moved his muscles fled to find a new host, Sergei put the gun under his own jaw and fired. Then Yuri was picking me up, "Run, Mikael! Run! Back to the base!" I didn't question his command, didn't ask why we would go back there. I fled, Yuri beside me, as the screaming tore through the remainder of our group. We had gotten away, but the things were soon in pursuit. As we staggered through the snow, we could hear them behind, their agonized cries slowly gaining on us. My legs burned, weakness and cold sapping my strength. I would have given up and laid down, waiting for death, if Yuri hadn't kept me going. We dashed through the ruined gate of our former base, the things some 100 meters behind. The darkness in the ruins was absolute, and we would have soon been lost if Yuri hadn't quickly found a battery-powered light. We ran downwards through the levels of the base, the screaming now closing in behind. If they caught sight of us this close, it would be the end. Where are we going? I panted, tears of fear and exhaustion streaming down my face. We're trapped down here. Yuri's face was set in stone. We can't kill them, Mikael, he answered. If that avalanche and all that gunfire we hit them with couldn't do it, I don't know what will. Then, what are we going to do? He glanced over at me for a second as we fled through the dark. Then he raised his free hand. Grasped in it were 2 grenades. One of these opens the caves on level 5. I lure them inside and I hide. Once they followed me, I'll sprint out. You have to be ready, Mikael. The second I'm out of that cave, you blow the entrance. We'll cause another rockfall. We will trap them again, I realized. We will seal the cave off. Exactly. Yuri smiled grimly. He thrust one of the grenades at my chest, and I took it in shaking hands. We tore into level 5. The ground was strewn with corpses, the dead left in the wake of the screaming one's escape, lying in heaps around us. Our pursuers weren't far behind. I could hear their thudding footsteps, their terrible cries. We were running out of time. Yuri sprinted towards the pile of rubble sealing off the caves. "Hide, quickly!" he called out. I leapt to the side of the room, taking cover behind an overturned work table. A dead body lay there, its eyes open in death, a grimace of shock and pain set on his face forever. A loud bang shook the whole level as Yuri blasted his way into the caves. The walls groaned ominously, their structure damaged, thousands of tons of rocks above us pressing down with terrible pressure. The screaming ones were approaching. Their cries were deafening. Yuri's light went dark as he pushed deeper into the unseen cave. There was a quiet thud as he lay it down. The bait was set. We didn't have to wait long. The cries of the things in pursuit rose in a crescendo as they crashed onto level 5. They didn't stop and dived straight into the caverns, following the light. I leapt from behind the table and ran to the cave entrance. A grenade pin clicked on the ground as I pulled it out, gripping the safety lever in sweaty hands. I waited, my heart thudding, my breath coming in short gasps. Desperation began building inside me as I realized that something must have gone horribly wrong. Yuri wasn't coming out. How long could I wait? How long did I have? Suddenly, my friend's voice cut through the cacophony of pain, echoing from the black cavern.
"Blow the entrance, Mikael! Do it now!"
He yelled from the dark. I couldn't. I wouldn't. My friend was in there, and I couldn't consign him to his death sentence. "Yuri!" I screamed desperately. "I can't!" My friend limped into view, staggering around a corner of the passage. 4 shapes leapt up behind him, all attention on Yuri. He hadn't been able to hide from them. We were out of time, out of options.
"Do it, Mikael! You have to!"
He couldn't get any further. I saw one of the pursuing bodies collapse. Yuri twitched, staggered, and fell. Tears blinded me. I released the safety lever and leapt back behind cover. There was a flash of light and a deafening boom. The screaming was drowned out. The walls shook, and the cave collapsed. Tons of rock smashed down, shattering on the ground. A cloud of dust sprang up, setting my lungs on fire. I peered through it with watering eyes. The cave was sealed. A wall of rock had fallen in its entrance, blocking it off. I fell to the ground and wept for my lost friend. No dead soldiers are mentioned in the old investigations of the Dyatlov Pass incident. I presume whatever arm of the government sent my father to that unknown base had gotten there first, drawn by reports of missing hikers, and made sure their involvement would never be found out. In 2019, the Russian government announced it was opening a new investigation of the Dyatlov Pass incident. The conclusion was that the accident was caused by an avalanche. I guess they're not completely wrong, or not outright lying. I think it was this reminder of his past that sent my grandfather over the edge, pushing repressed memories into his mind. I can't help but wonder if his last written words were true. Or are they still in the caves? I wonder if someone out there in the icy Russian waste, buried beneath the Ural Mountains, 4 men, one of them a hero and my grandfather's long-lost friend, are screaming to this day. This is the last entry in my grandfather's journal, except for those last words. God, help us. They're still out there.